the Warner Brothas podcast. I'm Kyle, joined by my brother Keenan. Keenan, it's not often we get to do this, but it's back to the OG Warner Brothas. It's just us today. How you doing?
I'm good. I am doing good. It's nice to get back to the roots. Not that we don't love Timmy, Camden, Brandon, Andrew Franklin, etc., whoever we have on, but it's always nice to get back to the roots. Have you ever gone back and listened to our first ever pod?
Shit. Nah, I have. I've gone back and listened to old podcasts, but I've not listened to the very first one. No, I have not.
First one.
I mean, I have. Let me rephrase that. I have gone back and listened to it, but it's been a long time. Like it was probably like closer to like a year after we started this, which is. I gotta say this before you continue. We've been doing it for I want to say
about 5
years.
Yeah, it's
going on 6,
4.5, 5 years ish.
Yeah.
Roughly there, yeah.
And it doesn't feel like it. Like if I had to put a number on it, it feels like 2 years. But I mean, we started well before the pandemic, and then we started taking it more seriously during the pandemic. Really, if you want to be real, like the very start of the pandemic, like literally the night the NBA shut down.
Yeah. We did 2 pods that night because we're like, what do you feel about this COVID thing? It's like, I don't really think like this is 2020. Like, we're going to be fine. And then Rudy Gobert happens. The NBA shuts down. We're like, well, this was wrong.
Rudy Gobert started COVID.
It's like, we were wrong about this. But, yeah, so our first one ever that we posted was on YouTube, April 10th, 2019. And that was 2020. Rest in peace, Nipsey. But in lieu of Westbrook's 2020 game. And then we had a Tragic Johnson, too. So, that was
I didn't realize we started with that.
That 2020 was the first one we ever did. Shout out to us.
Shit.
Man. It's been a while.
I thought that was like 3 or 4. Shows you how much I remember.
It was, but we did one trial one before, and that was the Wade Kobe, which I'm very at some summer point when we're chilling, when there's not a bunch of football, a bunch of basketball going on, I can have the peak Wade, peak Kobe conversation. But like we don't need
I feel like we've had that a few times.
We have,
I feel like it's been kind of reoccurring.
Yeah, peak Kobe, peak Wade. We've mentioned it in like passing, but we haven't ever been like dove in deep like a segment per se on it. But it's more been like a
true.
Peak Kobe and peak Wade's a conversation, but we don't actually have the conversation. But speaking of basketball, one might involve Dwayne Wade, and one actually could involve Kobe. Last night, did you see that Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony kind of did the LeBron Wade alley-oop thing, or the pose?
I did see today the picture of Jalen Suggs like throwing his hands up.
He did that. I was going to say it's kind of the homage to Wade and Bron, the pose, which is a legendary photo, honestly, just because of like the angle it was taken and everything. And then that got me thinking about classic duos and everything. And my question to you, what do you think the most fun NBA duo has been to watch for you of your lifetime? Like, obviously people could say like West and Chamberlain were just electric, but I've never seen West and Chamberlain alive together. So like actually in like anything live. So I wouldn't say that. For me, this goes back to about 2003-ish. Like, I remember a little bit of Shaq and Kobe, but I don't remember it like you would, because obviously during Shaq and Kobe time, you're 8 to 12. I'm 3 to 5, 6. So I don't remember it the same.
Right. I mean, on some nerd shit, I've said this before, I think, like, even as like a 6, 7-year-old, my loser ass was still, I don't want to say I wasn't watching as much basketball and football as I am now, but I was following the NBA pretty close, about as much as a 6-year-old can.
And
right?
In fairness to everybody, he used to have tapes like of Michael Jordan games, like not just like highlights, but like
Jordan, Iverson,
Nick Bulls 94 or like 93 rather, because obviously 94 Jordan's like have those games. So like in fairness to everybody, like he has those clips of just random games, just out of nowhere, and it's like he really was about it at an early age.
Well. Our parents, they used to record, at that time it was Jordan's last season, like the Last Dance season. They used to record those games. Yep. Then that turned into them recording Laker games, the whole Shaq and Kobe era. So I have a lot of those Shaq and Kobe games, a lot of Iverson games. So that's really what I would grow
And
up on.
that's how Shaq
Um,
became my favorite player at the time because I was like, oh,
it's true.
who's this big guy who's really good? I was like, I like him.
Who's this
Then
giant?
and then he got traded to the Heat, and then
Then
I
that burst
the
Dwayne Wade.
first ever season I watched was 05-06, and Wade's been that guy ever since, especially that finals run. That's an all time great one. But
So
favorite duos
I'll
all
tell you
time to
this.
watch.
So like what I was gonna say about watching that young is like you don't really remember. I remember watching the games, but you don't remember the highlights necessarily. Like
Yeah.
I remember LeBron and Wade being like scary defensively. Like
Mm-hmm.
when they really wanted to lock in, that team just had another level defensively that not many teams even today have.
No.
Um, I'll throw one out to you though, because it's gonna be obvious. People like if we were gonna have your general public on, people might say KD and Curry, KD and Westbrook, which KD and Westbrook would be up there for me too. Kobe and Shaq, Shaq and Wade, Wade, LeBron, whatever. But I'll give you this. I'll actually give you two. All right, and it's
Yep.
if we're talking strictly highlights, strictly fun to watch. Nash and Amari, right? They were
Mm-hmm.
amazing in the pick and roll. Uh, Nash could
Oh,
just find Amari anywhere at any time. It seemed like he just had
yep.
like a second radar, almost like Brady and Moss.
Yep.
Um, but one that's underrated and should be brought up
I feel like I
more.
know which one you're going with here. Or
What do you
do.
think it is? I'll
I
tell
think
you.
you're going to talk about Jason Williams and Chris Webber. That's what I think you're
No,
talking. Ooh.
no, wrong. Jason Kidd and Vince Carter.
Oh, you're going Jason. Oh, you're going that. Okay,
Uh,
that's up there too. Yes, absolutely. That Nets run was fire.
quick, quick story. Quick story. I mean, the first NBA game we went to was Nets and Celtics, and it was Vince Carter and Jason Kidd, and it was the last game of the season.
Hmm.
And the one thing that stands out to me about that game, two things was one, Bob Cousy drove past us in the players' parking lot before the game, and none of us realized it because he just looked like a regular old ass guy in a regular car.
Didn't Doug point that out after? It's like
And
I think
Doug's
that
like, "Yo,
was
that's fucking Bob Cousy. Rest in peace
we
to
were,
Doug Medley." And
absolutely.
we're like, "Shit, that I guess we could have got his autograph, whatever." But the other thing I remember was like I was hyped to see that game because it was like, yeah, I'm a Celtics fan, but I'm like, it's Vince and Jason Kidd. Like Vince Carter's gonna put on a show, right?
Hmm.
And early in the first half, I forget it was the first or second quarter, he like had a hamstring injury,
It's just
comes out of the game, comes back, and he at one point has like a breakaway dunk by himself. Like he's on the court by himself. They get a steal, they throw it up to him. I'm like, shit, like he's about to do something dope, and he just does the most generic, like I'm gonna set the ball in the basket dunk, and I'm like, cool. Like that
this is
was
what I paid my money for, Vince.
yeah, right.
Thanks.
I'm like of all players, like Vince is gonna give you a show, and he did
Yeah.
that. But no, true. Back to your answer though, like Jason Kidd and Vince Carter, they're up there with some of the best uh alley oop combos. Wade and
Mhm.
LeBron would be up there too.
Yeah, they have
Jason
to
Kidd
be.
and anybody, Jason Kidd and Kmart,
Yep.
Jason Kidd and whoever. But Jason Kidd, I think as time passes, people not only forget how great of a
He's
point guard he was,
underappreciated. Absolutely.
underappreciated, but like aside from Magic and Nash obviously would be up there too, but like next to Magic, I can't think of any other point guard who's like the best at running the break. Like we'll hit
Mhm.
you right where you need the ball. We'll throw you just no look lobs. Like I think he threw Vince or Kmart or no look lob like from the 3 point line, straight up like not even looking with his left hand. Like kid was just super creative. Vince Carter, to me and to you, I know you hold this sentiment too. Vince Carter is the greatest dunker of all time. Uh,
For me, it's not a question. It's not. It's
yeah,
really not. Like obviously, like it's closer with people, but like
it's
if
close. Vince has just got.
he's caught too many bodies. He has too many iconic bodies. Not that like Neek or someone like Sean Kemp or Mike, even Kobe, they don't, or like they clearly do, but like we think of Vince, we're like, oh man, he jumped over a 7-footer without putting his hand on him. You're like, oh, in game. You're like, oh, and then almost knocked out KG, which no one just KG almost got a fist from him. It's like, oh,
Yeah, Vince is just
Alonzo
he.
Mourning, bye, Dikembe, bye, like whatever you want. Windmills where your head's at, like looking down at the rim. He's like one of the only people you really see do a full windmill. A lot of people like kind of half arm it. The ball's as low as possible, then as high as possible, and then punched home. He's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say this. Obviously, Sports Center isn't what it once was. You'd
Mm.
have to watch the late Sports Center with Van Pelt to where you get like full highlights of these games. Um,
And
but I mean,
rest in peace,
that's
Stuart
really
Scott too. He was great.
for sure. And you know what? Honestly, that was always the case. Like the 10 p.m. Sports Center was always like the most in depth one as far as highlights go. Of course, that'd be
Yeah.
when the games are going on. But like Vince Carter would be the one that's like you're waiting to see what it was. Like, what's his highlight tonight? And he'd always deliver.
Mm.
And I've only seen a few people since then. Like, obviously, there's been great dunkers, but like Blake Griffin,
Yep.
if we're talking the last decade, he's probably the only other one that's up there. And then this decade, it's probably definitely Ja. Ja is
Yeah.
not, no pun intended here. He's jaw dropping. Like he's up there with every night. What highlight is he gonna do as far
Mm.
as aerial stuff? It could be a 360 layup, da da da. So he's up there with Blake and Vince. Shit. I mean, while we're at it, you could put CP3 and Blake in that combo too.
Yep.
As if we're
Or
talking
DeAndre.
about and DeAndre. So there's a lot. That's the first one that comes to mind. That's like underrated is J
Yep.
Kidd and Vince. Wade and LeBron. Had Wade stayed at his athletic peak just a little longer, I think we would have got more highlights. But they definitely
They made the
in that
most out of
2011
it.
run, yeah, in that 2011 run and 2012, like there's stupid lobs where Wade's literally like in that photo, just throw it up, and LeBron's
Mm.
catching it anywhere, like
The
anywhere.
the
It's
ones that
it's
get me the most were LeBron's two on Christmas Day when he went and tracked it with the left, and then obviously the tomahawk with the. I was like the one with the left where he tracked it, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, Bron, if you want to, feel free. That was what sparked me because like they're obviously up there for fun. I wrote down a few. I wrote down Draymond and Steph just like in a non like I think the way they work together, they may not be the highlights, but the way they work together, I think it's fun to watch in a basketball standpoint. I like watching Ginobili like honestly, like it's hard as a duo. I think just as a single human being, I loved watching Ginobili just because like he almost can make any duo. Like him and Tim was great just because like he would be able to find whoever. Such an underrated passer. Uh,
yeah, Ginobili. Not to cut you off, but
there you go.
Ginobili is he's a highlight unto himself. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's got layups, he's got posters, sneaky posters, he's got dimes. Like you said, he is an incredible passer. Uh, you mentioned Ginobili and you mentioned Draymond and Steph. Each one of them, I kind of more so the Warriors. I pair like the three of them together: Steph,
Yeah, Clay.
Draymond, and Clay.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's hard to really pair highlights. Like when you think of Steph, all of his highlights are pretty singular.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's like
You
Draymond
their
finding him when he's
their
trying to
team highlights or like yeah, they're not like up there with like the duos, but it's just more so in like a basketball sense. Like their pick and roll is kind of like it almost feels second to none. Obviously, Stockton and Malone they were amazing. Not Amari Nash, but like their pick and roll just because there's so many facets off of it. Draymond could throw the lob, get to the basket, also hit shooters. So like it was so deadly. But I think they're a great duo, but they may not be the most exciting. Obviously, we have people like Jason Williams, or Jason Kidd, or LeBron
yeah.
and Wade.
I mean, two things just to respond to that. Like Draymond, he's great and he's gonna go to the Hall of Fame, but he's not great enough like Dwayne Wade, or he doesn't do enough next to Steph as far as scoring wise, or have like
Mm.
flashy passes to where it's like you can single them out as a duo.
His
So
is
that's why I always group
IQ.
him with Clay. It's
Yeah,
IQ, right? Because it's
his is
not.
just an IQ, but not like Stockton and Malone were. I mean, Stockton had some fancy passes, but Stockton was really like I'm super textbook, and this is going to be absolutely textbook, and it's going to get the job done every time. But it's not like when you think Magic on the break, you're like, this is a highlight. When you think
Yeah,
Stockton Malone, you're like, okay, this is 2 points. Like
but you could
this is
also
just 2 points.
at least with those two, you could at least attribute like, okay, Malone beneficiated from
Yeah,
however many assists from Stockton.
yeah.
Stockton, you know, he gave that many assists to Malone. Malone got this many points from Stockton. Da da da.
Mhm.
Draymond, it's like it's kind of like that triangle.
Yep.
But that reminded me, you said like setting screens and stuff. I think it was this past summer. It was one of these past summers anyway. But when they post the runs on on Instagram about like the runs that the NBA players are in the summer, and
Yep.
Draymond's highlight was like, I think he was playing with Trae Young or someone. It doesn't really matter, but like half of his highlights were either like basic passes to like a baseline cutter or like screens. And people were like, Draymond's the only NBA player in the league that would have a pickup highlight with just screens being set. And it's pretty true. Like he was pretty much playing exactly how he does in the league.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Oh.
no, keep going, keep going. I want to hear what other
I
duos
was
you
gonna
got.
say a couple more that I had. I was thinking duos like the fun ones, like you named, like the ones that instantly came to my mind that were like super fun.
Mm.
I liked. So I'm going. I went more basketball too. I liked Rondo and KG a lot, and that's just because Rondo's such a pure passer. Like he was able that pick and pop with KG pick and roll, and then obviously Rondo was electric himself. So I love that. One that I wanted to bring up because I think it's something that at the moment's young, but it could become something really fun is Jokic and Murray. I think in the finals run they became, and obviously with Jokic being probably the best big man passer ever. Kudos to Avidas Sabonis, but like Jokic, like the numbers wise and everything speak for himself. And then obviously Murray being athletic. You don't get as many highlights. See, with these ones, you don't get as many highlights, but they get the production. But for me, the number one that I thought of was just Wade and LeBron. Like I just couldn't. Like I went always with it. Just there was just so much fun on the break. Like you were hopeful because LeBron could run it and throw it to Wade. Wade could run it, throw it to LeBron, and so like it was just so interchangeable that made it so great. Like obviously, like with Amari and Nash, they were electric, but like you're not going to see Amari getting it to Nash, or you're going to see Nash getting it to Amari, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you won't really see that from any
Not
point guard,
yeah, I was gonna say
big combo, or point
it's
guard
not a
wing.
common thing to see regardless, but that's why Wade and LeBron was so fun to me.
But I mean, you won't really see that from. I mean, that's the era of true point guards anyway, where you're
Yeah,
not really looking to score.
yeah,
And yeah,
100%.
Wade and LeBron both being wings, basically, they were just like I said, more like Jordan Pippen, who we didn't even mention. Like if you go look at their highlights, just you want to talk about we talk about symmetry on offense, symmetry on
I
defense,
was about to
Jordan and
say
Pippen,
you don't even have
and
to watch their
when
offensive highlights, just watch
and
their defensive highlights.
you add Rodman to that, and even Ron Harper, but especially Rodman, like it's pretty scary. Like that matches up against any era, just as far as it's just stupid how they like just their ball skills, just like their what do you call it?
Instinct.
Their instinct. I don't know why
Yeah.
that word wasn't coming to me, but yeah, no, they're like free safeties and strong safeties. What
Hmm.
that it reminds me of. They're just like they're ball hawks. Um,
And that's why
but
LeBron and Wade were the only one to me, like modern day, that matched it kind of because both of them were
similar.
ball hawks. Not that they're at the same level, but like Chris Bosh could play defense, Shane Battier could play defense, Mario Chalmers could play defense. Like there were
Yeah, and they
times
could
where
just
those
raise. They
Heat
could
teams could
raise the
just lock
level.
up. Like I
I
loved when they
remember
went full court. Like I loved every time they went full court. I was like, oh man, this is nice. I
one
love this.
one game I remember that was like particularly impressive with them was during the Linsanity run. They basically shut it down. Like Jeremy Lin was on his run. The Knicks came to Miami, and Wade, LeBron, Norris Cole, Chalmers, Bosh,
Mm,
like they all just locked it down. Like they would not let Jeremy Lin score, but let the Knicks score in general. Another one I throw in, I mentioned it earlier, is KD and Westbrook. I
yeah,
really like those two together. I miss those two together. I thought, I mean, I definitely think they would have won a ring at some point. That's a conversation for another day. I will never forgive. KD's one of my favorite players of all time still, but I'll never forgive him for January 4th, 2016. Change the league forever, honestly. But I love those two together. They had good chemistry. Obviously, they were a little different because he's a good passer, even a great passer, but he's not a rhythm passer the way
yeah.
some other point guards are. If that makes sense,
He's a
um,
streaky passer, if that makes sense.
in a way, in a way,
There are games where like he's feeling it, like his feel for the game is there, and like everything seems to be there. But then there's other games where like his feel for it, like almost like comes and goes. And also, I kind of wish Curry had someone fun too because I feel like he could have been like he has like the
I
passing
mean, he
kind
had
of.
Durant.
Well,
He had
yeah,
Durant.
but I mean, there's such a team. I'm thinking more so like if you would have given Steph like Blake Griffin, like obviously if
Jokic.
they can't, or like they or something like that. I just feel like they could have had so much fun because of the way he does. Lamelo's a new guy who I think if you gave him like Lamelo would like say Zion if they actually were able to, which I thought Lonzo and Zion were going to be fun. They were for a little bit, but they got too much injury. But Lamelo's fun because he just goes for it. He doesn't care. He's just going to go for highlights.
I would say this about Katie and Westbrook: they're more akin to Kobe and Shaq because Kobe and Shaq definitely fed off each other too. Especially it's
Yeah,
easier with Shaq, just being a big and Kobe being a wing. But
yeah.
just Westbrook and KD, once they traded Harden, they didn't really have a ton of depth on that team. And they could just overwhelm you themselves, and everybody
Mm-hmm.
else would get their shots based on their offense. So they would be in games literally just off the presence of KD and Westbrook.
Yeah.
So that in that way, I'd compare them to Kobe and Shaq. You know,
Yeah.
obviously not the dominance, but just in their presence and how they could keep you in a game just themselves. Obviously, you know, OKC for whatever reason chose a block over Harden, but you know, but yeah, no, in that way, I'd compare those two to Kobe and Shaq. But Kobe and
Yeah.
Shaq were on a level of their own too.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're their own duo, honestly. They're just their own kind of like entity of a duo. And that made me think of for you, just to quickly, I know we've been talking about this. What are the most fun teams for you? Do you
Just
have
like
any
specific teams.
like just specific team? Doesn't have to don't have to win it all or anything like that. Just specific like this team was really fun. Like I don't know if you have any at all that you
There's
thought like off the
there's
top of
quite
your
a
head.
few. I mean, you know, I'd go back to those Nash Suns teams, Nash and
Mm.
Amari, Sean Marion. Those were fun teams. They were
Oh
up and
wait,
down.
Nuggets. They were a fun team.
Loved those Nuggets teams. I absolutely loved the Iverson and Melo era Nuggets with
Yep,
J.R. Smith, with Kenyon Martin, with Birdman,
those Nuggets team
Marcus
fun.
Camby.
Yes.
That turned into Billups. They had a lot of depth. They were a ton of fun, especially at home.
I would have
it seemed
loved
like
to
they
have seen
never
Melo in a finals at that point.
would have loved to. He got close, and
Yeah.
you know he probably could have got there had he went to the Bulls instead of re-upping with the Knicks in the early or mid 2010s. But
Mhm.
Melo, that's just Melo, I guess. But yeah, no, it would have been great to see Melo in a finals. The 2016 Warriors, obviously, those
Of
early
course.
Thunder teams, obviously with Harden.
Early the
Uh,
Heat team
those
2012-13
are
Heat were just
those early Heat teams, obviously too.
Mhm.
Who the fuck else? The early iteration of the Duncan Spurs, those were not fun to watch at all. But once they spread it out and you know became more of a Tony Parker centric
Yeah.
team with Manu and all the 3-point shooting, those were very fun to watch. That 2014 run was fun.
Yeah.
I
To
liked
me,
the Grizzlies from that era too.
the Grindhouse Grizzlies, yeah.
Grindhouse Grizzlies with Gasol, Zebo, Tony
Conley,
Allen. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. All those guys, Conley. God, I could go on and
Those
on.
Clippers
There's
teams were
tons.
fun, the
Clippers were a lot of fun.
2012-13. The team that I want to mention, more so because of the player itself, like the 08, 09-ish Cavs were fun regular season. I know like playoffs they kind of fizzled out, but that LeBron was just so much fun to watch. So
Any
for me,
early LeBron.
like I feel like
That first era of Cavs LeBron was like you felt there's only certain players, and again I'll throw John here, but there's only certain players where you're like, okay, I can't get up and go to the bathroom right now because I might miss the greatest highlight of all time.
that was like
early LeBron was like that.
early LeBron,
And maybe
Jaws like that.
he LeBron might have been like that too, but early LeBron especially, you're like, okay, he dead ass might just leave from the foul line and like jump through the backboard.
Steph 2016 Steph was like that. Like you couldn't leave
yeah.
your couch. Obviously, like if he was, I mean, Steph's like that today. Don't get me wrong. Like if you could blink and you can miss a barrage of threes, but that specific year he was floating. So like at any point you're like, oh, Monday night game against the Wizards. Oh, John Wall and the Wizards were fun too. But anytime the Wizards are like, okay, yep, Curry 26 in the first quarter. You're like, okay, this is dope.
No, Steph was on a whole nother level that season. And it was still Oracle before it really got priced out and before they moved to the Chase Center, obviously.
Yep.
Like when Oracle was a party, like there was nothing like it. Like, yo, Steph could just have a crossover layup and you would think like he had the greatest crossover of all. You would have thought it was Iguodala's crossover where we made homie from the Nuggets fall. Which that turned into a party. Like there's you know, if you're just getting into the NBA within the last 5 years, yeah, like you said, Steph's still very exciting to watch, but there was nothing like 2012, 2013 to 2016 era Steph. And guess what? Would have got more of that, more insane highlights.
But
It had
KD,
Durant. You know, it just
like KD.
I will always be sick about that for sure. But no, I mean, there's certain players, certain eras, and again, the Nets when they had RJ and Vince Carter with Jay Kidd running the break. I mean, there's a ton, and I even liked Kobe, the late 2010 or 2000s, I should say, Lakers with Kobe, Odom, Gasol, Bynum.
Yeah,
they were different. They were built on size, and they were really kind of boring because not boring, but they were a half court team, but they played really well together. They passed the ball well together. Mm-hmm. When they were on the break, They were fun. They had good chemistry. So those
Yeah.
were fun teams.
Even the
Um,
Celtics '08,
gee,
like the '08 Celtics, like
although
that kind of run, like they were
great,
fun just because they were. That was basketball. It was really poetry in motion. Like they knew
they
where
had
to
great
be.
chemistry.
They were because they were fit perfect. You okay? You had the traditional point guard in Rondo. You had the shooter who can get his own shot when needed, Ray Allen. You've got the guy who is like you're gonna kind of run the offense around in Paul Pierce, and you had KG who's like, if you need me to get 30, I can, but I'm just gonna take a step back scoring wise, and I'm just gonna be the defensive player of the year this year. And then so they just all worked together. And on that team, I think it was Tony Allen, Leon Poe, good old Leon Poe, and they just
Big
Eddie
baby,
House. So that team,
Eddie House.
they just had such a
Just a
perfect
team.
team.
They were a team full of dogs. They were well coached.
Kendrick Perkins, I'm not for him.
Perk, shouts to Perk, Scalabrine, all of them.
Yep.
They had a lot of fun guys. Uh, they're obviously near and dear to my heart, but like that era after that, where it turned into the IT Celtics, like
Yeah, those are fun
that was a
too.
time.
That
That was
was
a time. Like Isaiah Thomas's Celtics, that little 2 year run was a ton of fun, a ton of dogs. And then that
mm-hmm.
turned into the Kyrie trade, which was like very bittersweet. But then Kyrie, for the short time we had him, especially that first season,
That
was
first
a
year was
ton of
fun.
fun. I will hold this to the death. I've been thinking about it recently. I mean, I've said it here before, but I mean, I challenge anybody to find me a team, Warriors included, that was as talented as the 2018 and 19 Celtics. I mean, they were with their combination of young talent mixed with, like with Jalen, Jason, Kyrie. They had Terry Rozier. They had like everybody that was coming off their bench or was like their fringe starters either went on to start for like a contender or is currently playing for a contender, starting, or like they're all playing important roles somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like every one of them is rotation players, either still or was like in the immediate future after that. That team was unbelievably loaded with talent. I'd have to go look at the roster again, but I mean, what like Marcus Morris, Rozier off the bench,
Yeah.
Daniel Tice, who still gets minutes. He's on the Clippers now. Shit. I like how I talk about talent. Those are the first names I come up with. But Kyrie, Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown in their early years, Marcus Smart,
You're talking about the Gordon Hayward one, like so
and yeah,
20.
Gordon Hayward.
So I can read you right now. They had for people who are really notable. Rob Williams was young on that. He was a rookie on that team. Terry Rozier, Marcus Morris, Greg Monroe, Kyrie Irving, Al Horford when he wasn't old, but he's still
Horford, that's right,
obviously
yeah.
he's still a player. Gordon Hayward, Jalen Brown. You had Semi Ujale, Jason
Semi.
Tatum clearly, Daniel Tice. Like that's 10, 11. RJ Hunter was even like fine, like when he played. PJ Dozer. These are
Yeah,
all people. These are all even Brad Wanamaker. Like these are just like even all their like bench players are still pay. Aaron Baines is on that team too. But like
Aaron
this is
Baines,
all
that's
just
right.
players that like they got like somewhere else. They were loaded with talent. Which is why that year, I believe, when the Celtics played the Warriors and Steph had like 49 because him and Kyrie went back and forth and they ended up losing. It was like, oh, that could be a finals preview. That could be real fun. But then,
That was the first game I ever bet on. Actually, I remember that game
shout
vividly. That was
out
a great game.
shout out. That was a really fun game because I remember you talking to me after that and you're like, yeah, Steph's hard to root. Steph's hard to bet against. It's
I was like,
like,
Steph is the
hard to bet against.
MVP.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that was still Durant and them too. Yeah, no, that team could match up against anybody. Had Kyrie not, been Kyrie and done the whole Kyrie act, that I fully believe that team could have beat anybody. But
That would
hey,
have been a nice series with the Warriors because the Warriors didn't have it wasn't like 16-17 where you really kind of just traded in Durant for Barnes because of contracts. Like that team didn't have the same amount of depth, so they needed everybody to be there, and they didn't glide through the regular season at 67-15 because they glided through 2016. 16-17 was a wrap. The second Durant on July 4th, Durant got there. We all knew how the season was ending because it really was just, hey, Harrison Barnes, bye. Hey, Kevin Durant, come here. Like, let's have fun, and then let's just coast through the season.
yeah,
But if you
19,
don't have anything else on this, but I have one
9,
more thing after. Just a real quick comment, and we can go. But you're good.
sure,
Keep
yeah,
going.
no, I was just gonna say 19 was just obviously a super dramatic season for the Warriors. I mean, it was dramatic from the start for really no reason, and then Draymond and KD got into their whole thing, and that
Yeah.
was that. Yeah, no, if the Celtics literally just keep their heads, Kyrie is a leader, and it isn't just immature that season. He just wasn't the best leader. Celtics probably do beat the Bucks and finish out in the West, but they just didn't have correct leadership, and that's important. You can't just win off talent in the NBA.
No,
I know it seems that way, but you need leadership, coaching,
2011
structure,
Heat
culture, all
had way
that.
more
And
talent than that Mavericks team, but LeBron wasn't ready at that point, and there was still a little bit of chemistry, like is it you, is it me kind of thing. Like there was a little bit going on there. Not that it was like a fights or anything like that, but it was just like we're not cohesive yet. In 2011, 2012, LeBron has the game of all games. They put it together, and then they beat the Thunder in 5. So
yeah, I mean, let's be real. LeBron just shows up and is a passable basketball player for what
he's
games
not
4 through 6.
he's not
They
Draymond
win that
Green.
series.
Yeah. Like we
They
don't
win
pay
that
Draymond,
series,
you don't pay LeBron James and expect LeBron James to be Draymond, but he had like I think it was
and
16, 7, and
not
6 in that.
2016 Draymond of today.
And it
That's
was
how
like
he showed up.
16, 7, and 6 with like an 8.9 rebound, 7 assist game from LeBron. Like 8, 9, and 7. No.
It's in the books.
We'd be disappointed with LeBron today, like in a playoff game, if he got 8, 9, and 7. And that's kudos to him too. He's in year 21. But like if LeBron went to the playoffs tomorrow, like in the first play in for the in-season tournament game, if LeBron played terribly and got 8, 9, and 7, we'd be like, what's up? What's going on? And again, that's kudos to him because he's in year 21, and 8, 9, and 7 for him should be a decent game in year 21 because we've never really seen it be a decent game for people. But so
Yeah.
that's
All
kudos.
that. I was just gonna say all that, like the whole Celtics that season. That's all in the archives of me losing my mind about Kyrie. So yeah, if you guys want to listen to some early WBP content, I'm sure it's somewhere
Yeah,
on the
that's
interwebs.
absolutely.
But go ahead with your last
The
question.
only
before we get to
last
football.
comment I had was I was thinking about this too because I was thinking about the early 2010s, and then it made me miss music from the early 2010s because I was listening to Section 80 a little bit today on rotation, just on doing orders in the back, so I was just listening to music, and Section 80 came on, and I was like, man, I miss when all of my favorite artists were really hungry and hadn't made it yet. I just had missed that time because then I "Chillin" by Wale with the Lady Gaga sample there came on. Who that with J. Cole. Like it just made me think of like all of these kind of, and then I realized like from like 2009 to 2012, all of like today's like GOAT artists in the sense of like the older artists put out their best project or second best project, arguably, other than maybe J. Cole, depending on 2013 Born Sinner, depending how you feel about it. But like Drake had Take Care, Kendrick had Good Kid, Mad City, Kanye had My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Obviously, Jay-Z was older. But Jay-Z, Magna Carta, Holy Grail wouldn't be up there, but I think that had some hits for people who were younger. But it was a good album for sure. It's not like it's his greatest, but it was a good album. Eminem had Recovery, even if you're going with like that. Like there was just so much great music coming out at that time. Meek Mill, Dreams and Nightmares. So like all of that stuff is just like at that point, it just was such a great time. I know we talked about like a month ago about how today's music doesn't stack up with that, but I was just thinking about how or when our favorite artists were young, it kind of reminded me too of like when we're talking LeBron, like young LeBron, even though like his best probably 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18 would be his 3 best years in my head, like complete. But like his most fun to me, even though that 12, 13 was really fun, like 07 LeBron was just fun. It's like he didn't know what he was doing yet, but he did clearly. Like he knew how to play basketball, but he was just like, my legacy doesn't fully matter yet. Like, I'm just gonna go out there and have fun playing basketball, and you felt it.
Yeah, I mean, hey, there's a reason why 2029 or 2009 LeBron won it over Dwayne Wade. You know what I mean? That's one of his great seasons too. So you got to throw those 2 seasons in there, 9 and 10. But
oh my god,
I mean, look,
that Wade 9 season, I'm still like, I get why LeBron won it. When you go through the stats, you're like, oh man, he kind of
it's like a 66 win team.
Yeah, it was like, and like his like points, rebounds, assists, and you go to advanced metrics like PER, all that stuff. It's so great. But
Wade was right there too.
Just the feel of Wade. It was 30 points, 5.5 rebounds, 7 assists. Took a team that shouldn't have been to the 5th seed. I know they lost to the Hawks, I believe, in 7 in Atlanta that year. That Joe Johnson team was actually kind of fun too. But and just that heat, like he just had a run. Obviously, that double overtime game against the Bulls where he hits the 3, stands on the desk. That Wade
I
team.
remember
That
watching that
Wade team.
game. I remember
Yeah,
watching that game.
and that's
Those
off of
those
you.
Hawks teams, those Hawks teams had a lock on the first round NBA TV time slot year after year after year.
They
They
really did.
had an unlock.
They had
Um,
fun. They had a fun team. Bibby, Josh Smith, Joe Johnson, Al
Jeff Teague,
Horford was on this team. Mo Williams, or sorry, Marvin Williams rather. But like, yeah, they
Mo
had a
Spates. I think
most
Mo Spates
Spates,
is on those
Marvin Williams.
teams.
They had a solid team. It
They were
wasn't
fun. I mean,
bad.
like, I mean, shit. I mean, just in general, that was all a great era. I mean, I'm not gonna get into the whole super team thing, but like, yeah, it was a more pure era for basketball. But
Yeah,
back to the music, I mean, early 2010s, they're talking like that's when I'm in college, and that's when I'm the same age as like what Nipsey and all these guys and J. Cole, Drake. I think they're a few years older than me, but we're all in the same mix.
yeah. If you're a
Travis
freshman, they're
Scott,
a
like
senior kind of thing.
that's like they're all coming out with like that's the peak era to me of mixtapes that were like starting to become albums. Now that's like normal now,
Hmm.
but that was like
No
we're
Ceilings
leave
also came out at that time too, like roughly around that time. So
yeah, like we're leaving the era of true mixtapes where you're rapping over someone's beats, and we're turning into you get acid rap, you get So Far Gone, you get
Friday
the
Night
Travis
Lights.
run, Friday Night Lights, you get
Technically,
the
Section
fuck
80
else
was one, but like,
Section 80, right? Yeah, and you get the Nicki mixtapes. You get the who the fuck else was I just thinking of? That's from that Nipsey, of course, but
were you thinking other Wayne, like the dedications and things like
Wiz
that?
Khalifa,
Wiz Khalifa, yeah.
Wiz Khalifa's another one who had like
Cushion
Cushion
OJ,
OJ. There's just a ton. Big Sean, like all those guys came up off of mixtapes that very
Meek
well could
Mill,
have been albums.
Dream
Meek,
Chasers
all
1,
those.
2, yeah.
And I mean, Fab, even with the soul tapes, like a lot of
Hmm.
those, yeah, still did contain beats of them rapping over someone else's beat, but then like the other half of it's original songs. So that was a very creative era of free music that obviously leads us into the streaming in the mid to late 2010s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those you had to be there eras. ASAP Rocky, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention ASAP and the whole ASAP crew. They were
Yeah,
doing the
Action
same thing,
Bronson
like
was fun.
action. It was
Absol. I
oh
mean,
my
that
god, that was
TDE.
a
That was when
fun
TDE
era.
was TDE was great because like they had their thing, but obviously Young Money was kind of like running it commercially because when you have Wayne, Drake, and Nicki plus Birdman, then you have Tyga,
MMG,
and then you have yeah, MMG was obviously Rick
good
Ross,
music.
Meek Mill, Wale, Stolly. Like they had.
Look, I could
See,
be
like I was just
completely
thinking about
wrong.
that today, and I was like, man, oh man, I feel like an old guy. Oh, the music back in the day was just so much better.
That's how it
Just,
happens.
I feel like an old guy.
That's how it
But
happens. I mean,
man,
look, I mean, I could be wrong. Look, I'm not up on all of today's artists. Like I know who they are. Like I know like Doja Cat's big. I know like NLE Choppa and NBA YoungBoy. I know those are all like a lot of artists, or those are the popular artists that a lot of people like right now.
Moneybag
Um,
Yo.
Moneybagg Yo, and he's a little older for
Yeah,
sure,
but
but
I'm just saying
like
he's pretty popular right now. I just want.
like it seems like the younger artists seem to drop like frequently, like very frequently. And I could be
Mhm.
wrong, but it doesn't seem as sectioned. Obviously there's different genres of hip hop still, and obviously there's different, but it doesn't, and I could be completely wrong. I don't like if one of you younger cats who's listening to this hears this and is like, nah, he's completely wrong. But it doesn't seem like there's as much of a subsection of like lyricism. Like you said, like at one time it was like the TDE crew, Action Bronson, you know, the ASAP clique, which is, that's a more spacey type of hip hop. They had their own wave
Mhm.
going on. Like it seems like stuff is more, I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, all this shit sounds the same, because it's not necessarily true. You can find music that's different, but I don't think it's as grouped up or clicked up as it once was, like where,
No,
MMG, like I definitely think Atlanta still has their Atlanta sound. You definitely still have the trap shit, but I feel like the popular artists are
they ride the
more
wave
pop
of what's
sounding, I
hot.
guess.
They ride the wave of what's hot, but put their own twist on it. And it's not like it's even a bad way of going about it. Like they still make great music. Like great music comes out like daily, but like back like what you were saying, like TD West Coast. Like you just knew that was West Coast.
Well, I just
Like
think like it
ASAP, the
sounds.
ASAP mob, like that just felt like that was New York, like that was ASAP mob. Then obviously like Migos, early Migos is still a thing, but like early Migos, Travis Scott,
Well, sadly, it's
Atlanta.
not.
Like you just like
Sadly, it's not. But Mac Miller too. He was
well, no, I
original.
mean yeah, but I meant like they're still making music more so
Yeah,
what I
no,
meant.
for sure, for sure, for sure.
But yeah,
But like Mac
they're
Miller,
not like a
it
thing.
just.
But yeah,
I'd say this. I would say all the newer artists or the popular artists, it all sounds more polished. Like I guess it's not. It doesn't have the
oh
warts or
yeah,
the just the versatility it used to have. Where like Travis sounded much different than a Drake at that time, and or different than a
you almost don't
Future.
fully hear the growth as much. I don't know. I don't like. I feel like when
That's
you,
that's where I don't
I
know as
sometimes
much.
feel like when artists find their sound and they just stick with it because they know it works. Where if you listen to like early Kendrick in like Kendrick's last album, you can just hear complete growth. J. Cole, same kind of thing. You can hear it all across the board with all these like the very very popular artists. You just hear it. Even Drake. I mean, Drake was someone that's a little weird too because he had his own thingish, and then he kind of went on the waves of other people, but then still kind of has his own thingish at times on certain songs. Like an 8 a.m. in Charlotte is like just kind of what Drake does, but then obviously he'll hop on somebody else's wave and do it with like other songs that he has too. So, but
Yeah,
it's Drake's just like a unicornish way in like a weird way. He does his own thing, but he's
I mean,
Drake,
I
so it works.
I can't speak to the growth of artists, especially ones that came out within the last like 5 to 6 years, because I'm sure they do grow. You know, like Jack Harlow,
They
he's
have
another one that's
growth,
very
yeah, but
popular. Like I would say one that kind of tweened in between like the end of that era into now, who is definitely super talented, who excuse me has grown as an artist, but he also drops a ton. Like he drops, it seems like 3 times a year. Is Kodak. Kodak's definitely grown. Kodak's definitely
yep.
super talented. Um, but yeah, I mean, I definitely there's not many artists I listen to that are newer. But you say that and you don't even really realize that some of these artists have been around for like 4 or 5 years. It just doesn't seem it. It seems like it's all within the last two. I'd say one artist
Yeah,
that comes up that's
yeah.
newer that I listen to here and there would be 42 Doug. I like what 42 Doug does quite a bit, and he's in the mix of kind of like Lil
Mm-hmm.
Baby, Gunna, that thing, Future. He's an ATL rapper, but um,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I would have to give more listens to the newer artists to say like whether they grow or not. But it does seem like, like tonight's going to be a night where music releases. It does seem like every 3 months I will see a project from Coil Ray or from who we just
Yeah.
mentioned, NBA YoungBoy, Kodak, 42 Doug. He seems to put out a lot of music. All these newer artists
And
that
you
are
just
very
wish they
popular,
wouldn't at
Annalie
times,
Chapa.
but
Right? Yeah, and it
I'm
does
not
all
gonna
sound
lie, you
similar.
just wish they
It all
wouldn't like
sounds
at
similar
times.
to me. It all sounds similar to me, but look, I mean, I remember people saying that about the shit that we're talking about right now that we miss. You know what I mean? The early 2000s and tens, the mid
Oh, of course, people are
2010s.
like, yeah, it's
Uh,
not the same as when Ludacris was putting things out in the early 2000s when you had obviously Dr. Dre with Snoop or
and
Eminem or
look, they
blah blah
were they
blah.
were
Like, and then
they were right.
they have their own credence to that.
They
They have
were
their own
right.
credence to that. They do.
They were right. There was definitely, look, I remember thinking there was some microwave rap then, and there was certainly microwave rap, even among the popular artists. But the thing was, it would be like singles, and then you'd get the rest. The rest of their album would be really good. There genuinely
Yep.
just seems to be a lot of microwave rap where people are not putting their heart or soul or any even thoughts into their music. I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
group all artists into that, but I mean, hey, I mean, it's not statistically proven, like it's genuinely proven that the music industry is like trying to market TikTok. They're trying to market what 90-second to 2 minute songs. So
Yeah.
I mean, what how creative can you really get when you're looking for a dance, when you're looking
It's
for a catchy hook, which you're always looking for a catchy hook, but when you're specifically looking for a catchy hook for a 30-second video or whatever, I mean, you're pretty limited in that
and
case.
here's
So
one thing. Just I'm shouting out Danny. Danny was talking about this because she was not that
what's up, Danny?
she listens to music like what she likes. So she'll just listen to like what kind of she finds it like on Sirius, or she'll look for certain artists that she likes and we'll listen to that. But I remember there was one song that she liked that she heard on TikTok, and then she was listening to it, and she was like, I don't even really like the rest of the song. I kind of just like this portion. It's like, well, that's what they're doing it for. Like,
Yeah,
they're really just making,
that's
or
for
like,
sure.
like, I mean, they have obviously TikTok radio and Sirius, so you'll hear it, but like, you might only sing along to like 40 seconds of it because that's what the clip is, and
They
that's
have
what
TikTok radio
everyone
on
else is singing,
Sirius
and then the
now.
rest of the song, yep. It's like channel 2 is the hits, channel 3 is Pandora. Channel 4 is TikTok. So
Pandora's on
it's there.
Pandora's
It's
on
not
Sirius now. But how does that even work?
Pandora. Yeah, Pandora Radio is channel 3 on Sirius. Channel
That's
4 is
interesting.
TikTok Radio on Sirius, and then they have like everything else that they have. Like they had their 2000 spot, and then now they have their 2010s, which throws me off because I feel old. Like, oh man, they're old,
Yeah, like I feel
old
like you
enough
can't
to where
even
they have
throw
like
it
an old
back to the 2010s
2010.
yet.
Yeah, like you throw it back
It's
to the
at least got to be
2010s.
2026.
It's like,
you got to be in the second half of the 2020s at least, right? For all
yeah,
that
so
becomes
that's what I felt
throwbacks.
weird. I was like, they're throwing it back to 2018. I'm like, or like, oh, Bodak Yellow, am I throwing it back to? I was like, it just feels like still like a
Oh,
decent
man.
song. That's my throwback. Okay, well, I get it. But yeah, so
Shit.
that was what I had. That I don't know if you had anything else, but that was what my thoughts were today when I was at work. So
I'm at
that's
some
what I got.
point gonna give TikTok Radio a listen and see how long exactly I can make it through. I'll try to make it an hour. I'll try to make it a half hour. We'll see. I'll try to make it 15 minutes, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. I'm eager to talk football. I'm very eager to talk in-season tournament, but we'll get to that next week. I'm not sure. Let me
Yep.
check since we're on the topic of music. Let me see what is in fact dropping tonight, if it's anything notable.
I didn't. I don't know. I think Nikki drops next week. I
I
think
bet it's
hers
no.
is
I bet it's
next.
tonight. Actually, I would think it's
I
tonight.
thought it was the 8th or like the 7th or something like that. I thought it was dropping. That's what I thought I saw.
Well,
But
hey,
whatever date's next week. Oh.
It's not this week, but funny enough, we mentioned we mentioned Wiz Khalifa. Wiz Khalifa's coming out with a mixtape. That's the top release tonight, so there isn't too much probably that you're looking for.
There's not much. Okay.
Doughboy, Joe
No.
Trufant, Sexy Red, Kevin Gates is dropping an album. Tory Lanez apparently has a new song out.
Okay.
Conway the Machine, he's got something coming out. Brent's got a new song out apparently. That actually looks like a re-release of prior music. So I think it's unreleased music for him that's coming out on streaming. So a couple songs. So really,
Yeah.
if you're a fan of Kevin Gates, if you're a fan of Wiz Khalifa, if you're a fan of Tory, Conway, and Brent, yeah, you might got some new or refurbished music in Brent's case.
Sounds like Kendall has something because she's a fan of Brent. But other than that,
Oh yeah, shouts to Kendra. Shouts to
yeah.
Kendra. Ain't seen Kendra in a minute.
Yeah.
But you want to jump right into this Thursday night game?
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, let's do. I mean, we got plenty of time because we're doing this slightly earlier than we normally would. Like this is actually, we'd actually normally be starting right about now, but
yeah,
because I'm very eager. Let's do it like this. Let's go Eagles Niners first because that's it's gonna be the game of the year. I mean, it has potential to not be, and I'll get to why I think it is the game of this Sunday. I'll give you my reasons why I think it could not be the game of the year. To me, it will be, but the reasons why it could not be, and the reasons why I'm just going to spoil it here. We'll get right to the picks. And I said this on Monday, so if you watch Monday's show, you already know where I'm going with this. I'm rolling with the Niners. I think it's insane that the Niners, they opened up as a 1.5 favorite on the road, and then it's the insane part to me is that it's ballooned up to a 2.5, 3. I think that's absolutely disrespectful to the Eagles. Now, where I agree and why I think the Eagles have, I don't want to say no chance, but like why I'm not even blinking at picking the Niners. Niners are basically coming off 11 days rest, and the Eagles are coming off back-to-back Chiefs emotional victories and Bills. Really within a 6-day period. They went Monday night into a Sunday afternoon game. Now they got the Niners at home, which benefited them. They're being at home. Cool. But I think it's going to be tough coming off those two games specifically. Niners are coming off a long rest period, like I said. This is the revenge game of all revenge games for the Niners. I mean, you look at it, yeah, the Eagles deserve to win the Super Bowl. I mean, they were the dominant team last year. They make it there through the Niners, but on essentially a bye week. They lost Purdy in the first quarter. They could have essentially laid on the ball that whole game and won. They could have kneeled it every possession and still won that game. The Niners were severely handicapped without Brock Purdy. Now they're running at full cylinder. They're going to have literally everybody back. They got McCaffrey, Debo, Purdy's healthy. All the players you need if you're the Niners are healthy. I mean, come on. They've been circling this game since the schedules came out. I mean, the Niners are not losing this game. I would be if the Niners lose this game and it's like either decisive or the Eagles just like take it from them. We should just give the Super Bowl to the Eagles already, honestly. Because I mean, if you can beat the Chiefs in Kansas City, then move to the Bills at home in a shootout in a game they should have lost. Both games they really should have lost. Let's be honest. And you take then the Niners, who if they're not the number one team in the league, they're number two. It's them or the Eagles to me right now. Those are the two best teams in football to me.
Mm.
Then yeah, give the Super Bowl to the Eagles already, or at least put them in the Super Bowl on the NFC side if they beat the Niners this game and beat them convincingly, not in a way where we say, oh, they kind of got lucky against the Chiefs, or not necessarily lucky, but they were outplayed versus the Chiefs and they end up with a victory. Props to them. Great win. And then last week, obviously, that was, we talk about game of the year. That's been the best game of the year so far, in my opinion, Eagles Bills.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they go on and just take it from the Niners at home after those two games, then yeah, then there's no question. But I don't see that happening. The Niners, since they've gotten healthy, they're clicking on all cylinders. And like I said, this is an incredible revenge game for them. Like they want this game more than any game on their schedule. So I don't see the Eagles winning it. I'm rolling with the Niners. I'm going to say 27-19.
So when we saw this line, we thought two separate things. I already have a bet in as a 3-team parlay. I already have a bet in on the Eagles side. This game is going to have inclement weather. It's going to be raining in Philly. Not that like makes the world of difference, but it's going to be raining in Philly, so it's not going to be great weather. I feel like this is going to be a game that's not pretty, and if a game is not pretty, I'm favoring the Eagles every time. You're getting 3 at home. I think they win. Just obviously, I think they win outright. But like, you're getting 3 at home. I think that's crazy, though. I don't know how you're 10-1.
2.5.
What they're basically saying. Oh, sorry, 2.5. I've seen it 3. I've seen it 2.5. Okay, but as of rest the second, it's been down to 2.5. What you're saying? Because I bet it at 3. But what you're essentially saying is that the 49ers would be like a 5.5 point favorite at home. I don't know about that. I understand. Like, if you told me this game was a blowout, then I would think that the 49ers blew out the Eagles. There's just something about the Eagles secondary. I get why people would have the 49ers. Like, it makes sense. They're a very good team. They're rolling right now. But I also think the Eagles just know how to win football games, and I feel like this game's not going to be a pretty one, and I favor the Eagles in every breakdown. They have to gut it out game. I've got this game 24-22, and I've got the Eagles winning.
That's great, and I agree with you. Like, it's disrespectful for them to even be getting, 3.5 or 2.5.
Yeah,
I would bet I still might bet the Eagles at 3 just because of that, right? But as far as outright winning the game, I don't care if it's raining. I don't care. 11 days rest for that team, where if this was the Eagles defense of last year, that's one thing. You can get
throw on
deep.
them. Yeah.
You can throw on them. You can be physical with them. The Chiefs out physical them, really. I mean, even the Bills, like the Bills had a ton of success, not only running, but throwing the ball, obviously. I mean, Josh Allen had a field day, but you add motivation to that. You add 11 days rest of Shanahan game planning for this. The Eagles are due for a loss. I mean, if they're not losing this game, you're telling me the Cowboys are going to beat them the next week? If they're winning one of these two games, they're going to win at Cowboys before they win at home to the Niners on 11 days rest. That's the big thing here, though, is 11 days rest to what's, if not the second best team, the best team in the league. That's key here. It's not like it's the Cowboys, right? Who, by the way, props to the Cowboys. I think they're becoming very trustworthy.
They'll be on 10 days rest?
Yeah, they'll be on 10 days rest. They'll be very trustworthy.
At home?
Yeah, at home.
Mm-hmm.
Difference is, I mean, the Cowboys, they got throttled by the Niners, right? Every time they seem to step up against a good team, they played the Eagles well, but every time they seem to step up against a good team, it doesn't go the way it should if you want to be a contender. I mean, shit, and if you want to just do it,
the 49ers.
you can't really do it.
The problem's
You
really like
you can't really do it like this. But if you want to say, hey, look how they competed against the same team. Take the Cowboys. Look what the Niners did to the Cowboys, and look how the Eagles played the Cowboys. That was a closer game for the Eagles than it was the Niners. Niners throttled them. Obviously, if the Cowboys and
yeah,
Niners
but
played today, it probably doesn't happen the
that's
same.
tough.
But it is
That's
tough.
tough
I'm not.
just only
I don't.
because like
I don't even like. I
matchups
don't.
make styles make fights.
I don't even like using that metric. I don't like using that metric at all. I don't. I think that's kind of phony,
Yeah,
especially when you look at when they played a few weeks apart. I mean, teams are different from
yeah.
week 4 to week 12. But I mean, you look at this Niners team, they add Chase Young. You add a strength to a strength. Jalen Hurts isn't great under pressure. I mean, we saw that against the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong. If this game's close, you're going to get the Eagles' best shot. But I mean, you do got to factor in playing two essentially playoff games in 6 days, and then you got a third playoff game on a Sunday afternoon. If it was Sunday night, maybe it'd be a little different. And then again, 11 days rest for what's probably the best offensive team in the league. Um, and a team who truly believes like it was inclement weather last in the NFC Championship game when they played. Basically the same conditions. I can't imagine. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell. You said it's going to rain. It's 4 days out, 3 days out, whatever. But I can't imagine it's going to be as rainy as last Sunday in the Bills game. So
That I don't.
and if
I don't know. I just know
and it
that
could
it's
be
definitely forecasted that there will be rain
and it could
there.
be. And if I
I don't
remember
know exactly
correctly,
what the conditions are.
like I said, the NFC Championship game that was about as rainy as last week's game, right? Or is maybe my memory's just foggy, but I remember
Oh,
it
I'm
being
not
at
gonna
least
lie to you. Like that game kind of checks out for me because all I remember is Brock
ended
Purdy
in the
getting
first
injured
quarter.
early, Christian McCaffrey playing quarterback at one point, and them losing. Like that's really like the only highlights for me because once Brock Purdy went down and then they lost another quarterback, it was like, all right, you can just give the Eagles, you can give them the NFC title, like they the same.
Yeah, and
So
I
that
mean,
game kind of checks out for me of like what happened.
you said the line indicates that if this was at home for San Francisco, that'd be a 5 point favorite. To me, it doesn't even indicate that at all. I think they're indicating everything I'm saying, which is the Niners rest, uh, the Eagles schedule, and the revenge factor, but more so the schedule. I think that's what the line is. I think if this was San Francisco at home, it would be the same line, if not a point and a half. I think it should be a point and a half either way, whether it was Eagles, Niners. I think a point and a half is fair either way. Even a half point, if it was a point five line or a pick 'em, I wouldn't be mad at that either. I do think the Niners right now are better, even given the record that the Eagles have. The Niners were banged up. The Niners now have Chase Young. Um, and the Niners just seem these are first of all the two most complete teams, but the Niners certainly feel more explosive, you know. So yeah, whatever the Eagles throw at them, I think the Niners going to be ready for. And I think that pass rush, especially early, is going to give Jalen Hurts problems. And I would not be surprised to see the Niners jump out to like a 10-0 lead. And how the Eagles respond, they're going to respond, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Niners really open it up. I got it. What I said, an 8 point victory. I wouldn't be surprised with a 10,
Yeah, you have
12, 14.
27-19.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised with a double digit victory, and not because the Niners are that much better, but again, given the schedule, given the revenge factor, and just given how the Niners offense can go. I mean, they just control the entire game. And we'll see.
I'm not gonna
Maybe we'll
lie
get
to
another
you.
shootout.
If the Niners if the Niners win, I would expect it to be more of a 14-point victory. I would expect a 14-point victory before I expected a 2-point victory from the Niners.
Yes,
The
sir.
Eagles in close games, I just trust them way too much. Like if the 49 if basically if they went 49ers win by 14, everything you said just comes to play. It's about time for a loss, and like they've just been playing around with fire a little bit too much, getting down in these games, having to come back. Their secondary has been able to get got, and you have Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. That it just they're able to block the Eagles line and they go. Like that's
Yeah.
like if it blow out, that would make more sense. I just think that they're actually going to be able to Hassan Reddick, Jalen Carter are going to be able to get home, and they're going to make it tough for Purdy. They do well against the run. The only team that's been able to really run on them this year has been the Chiefs. Otherwise, they really haven't dealt with too much run defense, and maybe they were playing for the pass with Mahomes and that. That's a little different. But so I just think this game is going to be a little muddy. Muddy, not actually muddy, but like a little muddy. I think it's going to not be as clean game. A clean game where Brock Purdy and the Shanahan offense can get like open and find looks, I do favor them. I just don't think it's going to be that. That's my personal thought.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, the Eagles haven't faced an offensive line like the Niners. This is the best back in the league in Christian McCaffrey. And like you said, Kittle and
Yeah.
Debo and Ayuk. It's just a lot to handle, especially coming off the Bills game, especially coming off the Chiefs game. Um, Take a shot here, everybody. I'm going to mention the Belichick Brady era Pats. It's not like this is a 10-1 Pats team where they're just, perfect in every facet. I mean, again, they could have easily lost the last two, right? Hurts is the front runner for MVP right now, but it's not like he's Mahomes. You get what I mean? Like, it's not, I'm not saying Purdy's that either, but it's not like this team doesn't have warts. This is a 10-1 that could be a 7-3, a 6-4 easily. Again, this is a team that I picked to win the Super Bowl. I just don't have them winning this game specifically. I think this is Niners all day. And it's one I'm not even blinking at it. I'm not even blinking at it. So, hey, I think we're going to see it again on my birthday weekend. I can't wait. It spoiled my birthday weekend last year. Hopefully it delivers this year. I mean, I can't imagine, unless the Cowboys spoil it, I can't imagine this isn't the NFC Championship game. So, yeah,
But
can't wait.
I'm not going to lie to you. If the Cowboys are in the NFC Championship game, whoever they play, it will be electric, so it'll be okay. Everything about the
it's gonna
Cowboys
be one of these,
being in the NFC Championship. I'm just
it's
saying,
gonna be one of these.
Even if
it's
it was
gonna
Cowboys
be one of these
Lions,
two games. It's gonna be one of these two.
Oh yeah,
teams
you would too.
if the
Maybe one of
Cowboys-
these two. I was just saying, if it was Cowboys Lions, even so, you'd be like, the Lions got there for the first time, and the Cowboys are there. Like, what if Dallas gets there? It is a party all week. Like everything's a party, and it's going to be like the most anticipated game. So,
And either way,
the NFC is going to be fun.
either way, it would be it'd be a rivalry game for the Cowboys, whether it's the Niners or the Eagles. But
Yep.
I mean, these are the two best teams. Look, I would take whoever comes out of the NFC to win the Super Bowl, and that includes the Cowboys. As crazy as that sounds, I mean, look, if it was actually Cowboys Chiefs or Cowboys Ravens, I would probably, gun to my head, take the Chiefs, but I don't think it would necessarily.
I would take the Chiefs. I think I might take the Cowboys over the Ravens.
I would say this. I'd probably, gun to my head, take the Chiefs over the Cowboys and the Ravens over the Cowboys, even though I think the Ravens are better than the Chiefs, right? That's more so the Cowboys factor. Mm-hmm. But today, I think the Cowboys are playing better than both the Chiefs and the Ravens. I think if they were in the AFC, they would be the best team in the AFC right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's going to be also interesting if the Chiefs do get back there. Like, we obviously don't know, but if they do, it's probably going to be a rematch. Because obviously they beat the 49ers in their first ever Super Bowl that they won. With Mahomes' Super Bowl they ever won. And then they beat, obviously, the Eagles last year. So regardless, it's going to kind of be a rematch of some sort. Could be an interesting storyline. But yeah, that's the last thing I have on this game.
Yeah, I mean, just to continue on, I mean, the Ravens are on a bye week. And I know we talked a lot about the Ravens and the Chiefs these past weeks. But, I mean, Chiefs still here in week 13. And we'll see them on Sunday night versus the Packers. They've done nothing to separate themselves.
Against the Pack.
Done nothing to separate themselves. The Ravens should have separated themselves last week against the Chargers. It didn't really do that. But I think they're going to have more opportunity to separate themselves because I think the Chiefs, they are what they are. Unless one of their receivers really gets going here late in the season, I think they are who they are. Whereas the Ravens, like the Chiefs, though, they have a great defense. I just think the Ravens have potential to be more explosive. So that could give credence for them to just open up more as an AFC favorite. Granted, time will tell, but they've got that look more so than the Chiefs. However, the Chiefs have been there time and time again over the last 5 years now, 6 years
of course.
Even. Yep. So, yeah, that'll be a storyline down the stretch, and it'll be great. Again, you've heard me say time and time again, I don't think the Chiefs are doing anything as far as the Super Bowl goes. But, hey, can't count out Mahomes there, but, I'd give the edge to the Ravens. I've said that plenty of times. But, yeah, as far as the Eagles and Niners and Cowboys, I mean, I think those are three pretty safe bets come out of the NFC, and specifically these two. I mean, I would have to see it to believe it with the Cowboys, and we'll find out. They got a tough schedule coming up starting tonight, and we can segue into that. They got tonight, and I think they play the Eagles next week, correct?
Yep. That's what I was saying. They play the Eagles next week, but they're on 10 days rest, and they're at home for that. So
yeah,
that's why we were talking about.
That's going to be a game. they're circling. You know what I mean? That'd be the case anyway as far as the NFC East. But I mean, and we'll talk about that next week. I mean, we could get to that next week. We'll talk about tonight's game first. I mean, the Seahawks, they don't have Kenneth Walker. Am I correct?
Yes, he's out with an oblique.
If they had Kenneth Walker in this game, I think this would be a more competitive game, a more fun game. If the Cowboys are who I think they are right now, which is basically just a more mature version of who they've been in past years, I don't think they'll start beating themselves up. Past Cowboys teams would have lost this game. If this Cowboys team's who I think it is, which is, a more serious contender, they should win this game and they should, if not cover, come close, win it by a touchdown at least. But no Kenneth Walker, and Geno's not playing his best. He's banged up. They should be able to get to Geno and really affect this game. And they're at home. It's not like they're playing in Seattle. That would change things a little bit. This is right there for the Cowboys. Obviously, both are coming off the Thanksgiving games, so it's a full week rest for them. So we'll see a cleaner product tonight for sure. But I'm gonna roll with the Cowboys here. I'm gonna go. I gave 27 to the Niners. I'm going to give 28 to the Cowboys. We'll say 28. That's boring, but I'm going to do it 28-17. So very similar score to the
What's the
Eagles
spread?
Niners. It's 9.5 right now for the Cowboys.
Yeah, okay. I have it 30-16 Dallas. I don't see there's anything that Seattle can do with Dallas because I think that Seattle can't hold Dallas to under 24, and I'm not sure that Seattle can get to 24 right now. They haven't in past weeks. They're just a team that's banged up with injury, and Geno has regressed to the mean of what he has been for his entire career. So basically, with those two things, Dallas is just a better team. If they lose, you're right, in years past, and possibly tonight, if they make this a 27-25-ish game, that's a question mark for me. This game should, even if it's just a touchdown score, they should never be a point where I'm thinking to myself, "Ooh, Seattle could pull this one out." I should never feel that. Now, even if they scored first, I still shouldn't feel that because of the fact that Seattle is banged up, they are reeling, and Dallas knows if they want to get the 1 seed, this game they need. They're on a regular rest, and then next week, even if the Eagles win per se or this week, which you hope that for the Dallas sake, you hope that the 49ers win. But even if they do win, they're coming off back to back to back very, very tough games, and we've got more rest than them. So that's why it's going to be interesting. But Dallas 30-16, I think they should put this away early and coast late. Look out for a defensive touchdown late.
Yeah, only thing I would say is, it's an important game for the Seahawks. Pete Carroll's been in these games.
Oh, it's very important for the Seahawks.
He's gonna it could be a kitchen sink game for them. Both of these teams have tough schedules the next 4 weeks, really. So maybe the first half is close, but I agree. I think the Cowboys pull away. I mean, again, if Kenneth Walker's in this game, you can control the game more. And Charbonnet, he's been good for the Seahawks, but I mean, it's not like he's a power back. I mean, don't get me wrong, he can gain some yards, and he's someone I'd want on my team per se, but he's not going to control the line as much as Kenneth Walker would, right? Are you using a pencil sharpener?
Absolutely. I write down my stuff with pencil.
I don't think I've used a pencil sharpener in straight up 25 years.
Yeah, I use my number 2s.
Wow, I literally couldn't tell you the last time I used a pencil sharpener. I don't even know if I still know how to use one, honest to God, right now. But
this is
that's
hella
simple.
Random. You just put it in there and just.
Well, you got the handheld joint. You got the handheld joint. I'm talking about the true
There was honestly a little bit of a rhythm you had to get into because you had to get it just right. Because if not, you'd break the pencil and have to go back to it again. No, there was a little bit of a trick with those ones. Back in on the fourth, yeah, no problem.
Thank you for that breakdown.
We can move on to the next game, though.
Yeah, no. All I was gonna say was, if Kenneth Walker was in this game and they had all their full weapons at their disposal, it'd be different. But because of that, they won't be able to go head to head. They're gonna have a true home field advantage. That crowd's gonna be rocking. Prime time Thursday night, going into the Eagles game. And the Cowboys really think they can win the Super Bowl. And again, it's not Jason Garrett's Cowboys. We make fun of Mike McCarthy here and there, but he's a professional coach. He's been in these games. He makes dumb decisions, sure, but they're going to be prepared, and they should win this game. They should win by double digits. So, yeah, I'm with you in that one. Next, hey, Chargers visiting our Patriots. This line's gone down in the Patriots' favor. It's now sitting at 5.5 in the Chargers' favor. Um, Weirdly, I could see the Pats win this game. I think I've picked them the last 2 or 3 weeks. Like, why the fuck have I done that? Um, Look, this defense is going to show up. They've been playing well. Uh, Weirdly, let me just say this. I know there was a lot of noise in the beginning or even in the middle of the season, like week 8 range, about Belichick not returning. But the worse these quarterbacks play, like Zappy and Mac Jones, like it just looks more and more like Belichick's hamstrung by these quarterbacks. You know, it almost makes him look better because it's like, how the fuck am I supposed to win with this? You know what I mean? So I would not be surprised to see Belichick back next season. I'm rooting for that. Obviously, like we said, changes would need to be made. I'm also not mad at the other rumor though. Would be like if he does happen to leave, Vrabel might be his replacement. Obviously, it's been rumored Gerard Mayo would be the coaching and waiting. I'd be good with either one of those. They
That
were
would be
consummate Patriots. I mean, you talk about the Patriot way, Patriot culture. Who would know it more than them? Those two, especially Vrabel. Mayo got injured a little early, but he jumped on our coaching staff after that.
yep.
He was all pro for us a few years there. So two great players. Mayo's been instrumental in this coaching staff. Vrabel's been shit. You could say a top 5 coach, certainly a top 10 coach in the league for the
Oh,
Titans.
absolutely.
So wouldn't be mad at either of those. I do hope Belichick stays around, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Patriots steal this one. I just can't pick them. But the Chargers are the Chargers too. This is a coaching mismatch. But hey, we don't even know if Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi starting. Uh, I guess 20-17, which is being nice. Yeah, I'll go 20-17. We'll go we'll go with the Patriots moral victory, a Chargers actual victory.
So if obviously there's been like light stories, not that there's been like official reports, but like light stories that the Chargers could possibly fire Brandon Staley, trade like a second to get him to Bill Belichick. Obviously, you'd have the situation of a good a good quarterback in Justin Herbert, plus you've got defensive pieces, Derwin James, Joey Bosa, go on. But Sante Samuel Jr., who obviously coaches his dad. But I have the Chargers in this game 23-17. I'm fine either way. What's been growing in my head for a little bit of time now. I haven't wanted to say it for a while, but I have. This almost feels like the Spurs again. How we always draw comparisons. How like Pop was like,
With
oh, he
Wemby?
could, yeah, could be on his last leg. Like Pop could retire this year. They get the number 1 pick. You get Wemby. Like, oh, maybe I want to coach again. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
like they get the
yeah,
number
pretty
1 pick.
much.
It's like, oh, hey, maybe I want to coach again a little bit with Caleb Williams. That sounds fun. But Bill's obviously a
Could
little
be.
different than Pop, but they're cool. But like, it's I don't know, it mentally just feels like the same thing. And like obviously Duncan and Brady were close to the same time, obviously two very separate. Tim Duncan, a surefire number 1 overall pick. I think it was like a year or two before, and that happened. Then obviously Tom Brady, 6th round, 199th pick, comes in, then obviously takes over for Drew Brees. Very different, but they found their franchise guys at the same time as younger coaches. So
Hmm.
then it could be like a Wemby kind of thing for Bill Belichick getting Caleb Williams, but I have
Could be.
23-17 Chargers. The Patriots, I'm not. As I said, their next win I'm predicting will be against the Jets. They're losing every game until that point. No, my personal opinion. If they win, I'm shocked, and I'm not
They probably
mad,
will,
but I'm
but
shocked.
they randomly beat the Bills. I wouldn't be surprised if they get one more random ass win somewhere. And I would
This would be
definitely
the one.
this
This
would
would
be
be
the
a
one,
one.
right?
This would be the one.
You would think anyway. Because they face the Dolphins the second time. That's right. So yeah, they really just have the Bills and Jets left in the division. This came to my mind though. I mean, this would be a couple years down the line, but be kind of funny. Let's say Belichick sticks around. Let's say they get Marvin Harrison Jr. in this draft. And what if like 2 years from now they get Arch Manning and then it's Belichick coaching Arch Manning and Marvin Harrison Jr.?
That
That
would
would be
be
full circle.
that that would be electric. I now need Manning and Harrison to get together because I think that if they did that there, if they somehow did it in Indy, which would clearly not happen because Indy's not getting the 3rd pick, but just for the sake of obviously them being in Indy, but that would be really cool.
For sure. For sure. That came to me the other night, but I think yeah,
That'd be
Manning's
really
a
cool.
freshman this year, so it'd be at least two
Yeah, he
years.
he just got his first like couple snaps at Texas this year, so he's looking probably to start next year. think their quarterback's a senior. No.
Weird game. Cardinals at Steelers. The line is 5.5. They don't really know what to make of this game. The Steelers looked better on offense, but they also faced a Bengals team without Joe Burrow, so it's kind of hard to really know how much that factored in, honestly, to their offense. Because there was definitely more punts than there would have been with a Joe Burrow led team. So yeah, it looked better, but at what cost? Uh, Steelers should win this game, especially at home. Cardinals lost by 2 touchdowns last week. Plus, I really don't know what to do with this game. I'm interested to hear what you think of this game because I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals won. I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers blew out the Cardinals. I wouldn't be surprised with really any outcome. I wouldn't be surprised with a 12-10 game. I mean, I would be surprised with a shootout. Let's say that, but everything else I think is on the table.
I have Pittsburgh winning this game. I just said 23-21, but I do think it's actually going to be more. I have this game going to be 24-20 Pittsburgh. I think Kyler makes enough plays to make it interesting. The defense of the Steelers gets it done, and you can run on the Cardinals. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, two interesting pieces. I think they'll have a 1-2 punch and they'll control the game, and Arizona will make it close late because Kyler will make a couple special plays like, oh, that's why we like him.
Not that Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are particularly close, but if the weather's bad in Philly, can't be too much better in Pittsburgh, maybe. So maybe that leads to lower scoring. Um, Again, this offense performed better, but it's still kind of I'll believe it when I see it with this team, just because of what the
Yeah,
matchup
it's
was
supposed to
last
be
week with
raining
Browning.
on. It's supposed to be like, but in between light rain and sunny-ish throughout the day. So they're not getting it as heavy as Philly, but they're getting there's. It could be not the most ideal conditions.
It's going to be incredible that we're going to get the Steelers in the playoffs and that they'll continue to win. I mean, I kind of feel the same way about this game as the Pats game. It almost feels like if the Steelers are going to lose, it'd be this one.
Yeah,
It's kind of hard to cap
I
the
kind of hope they
Cardinals.
lose. Not gonna lie, I don't really want them in the playoffs. I think the Bill.
Yeah,
I think the Broncos, Bills, and Texans are more fun in the playoffs. It's really unrealistic to think that the Steelers and Browns both fall out of the playoffs, but I think
the
that's more
Browns.
fun. The Browns are
I
more
think
realistic now, but
you just never know who's starting at QB for them, right? They might have Flacco starting this week. We'll get there shortly
and,
after, but
yeah.
you know what? I'm gonna go ugly ass game, like terrible game. I'm gonna say 15-14 Steelers.
All right,
Rooting for the Cardinals, but
same.
I thought they'd do better last week. And they didn't show up the way I wanted. Next mini playoff game here again. Broncos at Texans. Texans are favored by 3.5. This is a difficult one. I would say the Texans are a cleaner team as far as their offense. Broncos seem to be, I don't want to say patching things up but it doesn't seem cohesive. Seems like they dink and dunk here, and then all of a sudden they get a 40-yard play to Sutton or something like that. Russ all of a sudden will turn it on and look like the Seattle days Russell Wilson. Uh, I don't know. Part of me wants to favor the veteran savviness of Russell Wilson and Sean Payton in this situation. They're on a bit of a win streak here. Um, then you got the Texans who are just playing wise above their years. They're playing way better than any of us expected. But again, it kind of seems like in some of these games, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, so to speak, given that they are a young team. But again, the Texans seem cleaner and more put together on offense. Like they seem like CJ Stroud and Tank Dell can just put something together. You know what I mean? Like they can hit you with 60-yard bombs here and there. Whereas the Broncos, it seems like dink, dunk, then you get a bomb. This could either be a shootout or it could be an ugly, weird-ass game. I'm going to lean towards ugly and weird, which I think would favor the Broncos. I'm going to roll with the Broncos. I don't feel great about it. I'm going to say 24-21.
Okay.
A lot of weird games this week.
So I actually think that this game is going to be on the other side. I do kind of think it's going to be a little shootout. So the Broncos have had a plus 12 in the turnover differential in the last like 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
They forced 5 on the Chiefs, like 3 on the Vikings, 4 on the Bills, I believe it was. Like they've had a super amount of turnover. So obviously, on one hand, they played Mahomes and they played Allen, but those two have been more turnover prone this year than C.J. Stroud has been. If
Mm-hmm.
you feel that the Texans are going to turn the ball over, then you would lean towards the Broncos. I don't. I think CJ Stroud's had like one game. I mean, he could. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. He's a rookie. Obviously there's ups and downs. He's had one game where he did throw 3 picks. They didn't even end up winning that game too. Good for him. But I think he's been taking care of the ball, been playing in big situations like last week against the Jags, who've been turning a lot of people over. 350 total yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and so three total touchdowns.
I thought
I
he
have
threw a
it
pick
third.
last week.
He didn't throw one last week. He
No?
Lawrence threw one. He didn't throw any picks. He was 307, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 6 for 47 and a touchdown. But so he was phenomenal last week, of course. But I actually have Houston 31-24. I think Russ is going to come to play, and I think this game is going to be high scoring.
We shall see.
I hope. I really hope. I think it'll be fun.
We get the Lions at the Saints next, and the Lions are favored by 4.5. It is a dome game. It will be in New Orleans. The Saints have struggled to score. Very disappointing that the Saints couldn't beat the Falcons last week. I think the Saints really only have 3 touchdowns in X amount of drives, and 2 of them were from Jameis Winston.
They tried. I mean, they were moving the ball up and down in the first like the first drive they moved up, they got a field goal. The Falcons did nothing. They moved all the way down to the red zone. Pick six, Jesse Bates changes the entire game. Shout out to Jesse Bates.
Derek Carr, like you said, they were moving the ball up and down the field. I think he threw for over 300 yards, and the 1 touchdown he throws was to the other team.
That's a classic Derek Carr game. He does like to get himself 300-yard games and then just like low touchdowns. I don't know why that. Like this year, he's gone over 300 yards 3 times. He's thrown 2 touchdowns to 3 picks in those games. Like that's crazy.
Weird.
Just like he goes for yards and then just can't complete the drive.
I would assume the Lions win this game, and weirdly, I can't quit the Saints. Like I know they're now a game behind the Falcons, but I still can't picture the Falcons winning it. Granted, the play calling's better. They're getting it to all their playmakers now a little better. Not all of them, because they don't continue to get it to Kyle Pitts, but they're trying. But that being said, the Lions should win this game.
Tried to give it to Bijan. That works.
Yeah, that finally worked for them. I'm gonna roll with the Lions. I'm gonna say 27-20. I had a lot of 27s, but seems like they could do it. But the Saints should hang, but you just never know what you're getting with these damn Saints.
Saints have a pretty good fan base. Indoors does favor Jared Goff. Jared Goff has played in a stadium plenty of times before. So it's not like he's unfamiliar to it. The Lions, I have them winning 26-17. If they're the team that I think they should be, which is at least a playoff contender and a team that can go to the divisional and challenge one of those teams in the divisional, maybe not win, but at least give them a good game, this is a game they shouldn't blink at it. I understand the Saints defense has been pretty decent, but as we just saw, Bijan ran all over them. You have a better line than the Falcons. You have a better tandem of running backs between Montgomery and Gibbs. Bijan might have a little bit more upside than them, but it's not like Gibbs and Montgomery are slouches by any means, so there should be no reason why they don't control this game. And if they don't control this game, or if they lose, we need to start really questioning, like, fool's gold possibly kind of thing. Like, this is a game that you need to have.
It's tough because
you want to be a contender.
If you're the Saints, you really need this game because the Falcons are facing Tim Boyle and the Jets, and that could be closer just by the Jets defense keeping them in the game. But I mean, you would assume that the Falcons just come away with that game, and that's the thing. The Saints, there's times where they'll put up 34 on you, and then there's games like last week. Do they still have one more game against the Falcons?
And Tampa's playing Carolina also, but I think so. I don't remember them. Let me look at their schedule real quick, but I think they do.
We'll move on to Colts and Titans while you look at that. Colts are a 1.5 favorite over the Titans on the road.
Yeah, they play them last week of the season.
Interesting.
Sorry, go on.
Very interesting. So there's time. There's still time there, I guess, for the Saints and the Bucks. Bucks really copped it up
Yep.
last week. Bucks really copped it up versus this
Yeah.
Colts team. The Bucks. Funny enough, the Bucks probably have the best roster out of all three teams, and it seems like they can't
If you
put.
were to say, hey, some team from the NFC South won a playoff game, you would probably be like, yeah, it's the Bucks. They have more experience. Baker's won a playoff game before. Do you really trust Desmond Ritter in those situations? No. Derek Carr and that Saints team, they can be a little finicky. Like the Bucks are the most trustworthy team, but I don't even know if they get there.
It seems like they can't put 2 weeks in a row of quality football
Yeah,
back to back. Like they
since
just
like
can't
week
string together
5.
2 wins. It's really weird because Baker. Say what you want about Baker, but he looks competent at least.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
back to Colts Titans. I'm picking the Titans only because I'm rooting against the Colts. Like you said about the Steelers, you don't
Shout
want
out
them in the
Tim.
playoffs. I don't want the Colts in the playoffs. Yeah, shout out to Tim. But the Colts will probably win this game. They are without Jonathan Taylor now, so maybe that. I mean, you would figure, even though it is on the road, you'd figure the Colts would get 3 here or even 2.5. So it makes me a little suspicious. So I'm gonna roll with the Titans. Whatever, whatever. Let's say 21-17.
Half of me wants to go with the Titans. Mike Vrabel as an underdog is kind of elite. Part of me wants to go there because they are at home and they're playing fine. I can't talk myself into the Colts. I think the Titans are going to win a close one. It's going to be about 22-18. I have
Hey,
like
let's
the
hope.
same
The more chaos, the better around this time of year.
22-18. I think you know what the Titans are probably going to do. The Titans are probably going to win like 3 games in a row and put themselves in the mix. They're never mind. They're not going to
I
do
was gonna
that.
say
They
that's
play
not
the
happening.
Dolphins next week. They play then the Texans and the Seahawks, then the Texans and the Jags. I lied. They're going to do none of that.
It's not happening.
I was going to just say it just because they're going to play like bad teams that are random. They're not playing like another really truly bad team this year. So never mind that. I misspoke.
Next, we get the Falcons of Atlanta going to New Jersey to play the Jets. Falcons are a 1.5 favorite. Tim Boyle versus Desmond Ritter.
Only a point and a half.
Yep. They really like that Jets defense, I guess. I mean, hey, it's Desmond Ritter versus Tim Boyle. I mean, that's not a lot of a step up. I mean, he's more talented than
That's
Tim Boyle,
true,
but
but
look, if you told me the Falcons were going to lose this game, I could see it. They shouldn't. I mean, as long as their defense takes care of business, they should at least get one score on the Jets, right? Bijan should be able to break one, maybe. I
yeah,
don't know. Uh, I'm gonna roll with the Falcons. It's gonna be an ugly ass game. God, I don't even know if the Jets could really score a touchdown with Tim Boyle. That's the thing. Like I'd feel the same way with Zach Wilson, and this guy at the least is less talented than Zach Wilson. I think they're the same level of quarterback, to be quite honest with you, but he's less talented. Like he can't move around the way Zach can. So, man, I already picked what 17-15 for that Steelers
yep.
game. Let's say 12 for the Jets, 18 for the Falcons.
I have it 20-9 Falcons, and it has to do
Fair.
with the fact that I don't. I tried to give them a touchdown last week, like I really did, and like I think they score one last week. Oh yeah, they scored a defensive one. That was
The,
right.
the Jets did?
Yes, they scored a defensive touchdown last week. That's right. But
Yeah.
like, but like
And the Hail Mary
they can get.
6.
Yeah, I mean they can get into field goal range a couple times. Not that they're gonna only score like get like 20 yards of total offense. I just don't know if they can finish off drives. Atlanta's defense is actually pretty decent, and then offensively, they're not great against the run. And I think Arthur Smith finally realized that his most talented players behind the line, he needs to realize that his second most talented player is probably lining up on the right side at tight end most of the time, and then Drake London. But at least he realized that Bijan's pretty solid because the last 2 weeks they've given him the ball and weirdly they scored points. I never knew. But 20-9, I don't really think that the Jets can do a whole lot.
It's going to be a bad weather game, too. Uh,
Oh.
So I
20 to
mean,
9.
you could be looking
I'm
at
feeling
6 to 9 here for all we know. So
Listen, I'm feeling more confident about the 20 to 9 even so because that means they're just going to I trust the Falcons running the ball. I do cuz I trust Bijan to run the ball well. But I also do trust Brees Hall, so I mean
yeah, I just don't
maybe.
trust Arthur Smith. I think he's a
Yeah,
good coach, but I also think
that's
he's a weird coach. I don't like his play calling, but they should win this game. You would think so, but hey, weirder
yeah,
things
that's
have
fair.
happened. Dolphins at Commanders, probably another weird weather game. Dolphins are a 9.5 point favorite. I think it's going to be, I don't know. I think it'll be a little lower than that. Maybe a touchdown game. Maybe right at 9. No, I was going to pick 27-18, but I've already done that a couple of times. We'll say 25-14. So I guess they do cover. Actually, no, we're going to have the Commanders covering. We're going to say 25-16. Boom, book
25
that.
to
25-16.
16 plus 9.
Two touchdowns,
So,
2 point conversions.
this weather's making me change the score. I thought that after watching the Commanders last couple weeks, that Tua is going to throw a party. I think that Tyreek Hill is going to have himself a phenomenal game here. I just don't know if it's now going to be throwing a huge party on him, but I have them covering though. I think this game's going to be in the 27 to 15 realm. Opportunistic defense enough. The Dolphins are a pretty good defense when they're playing with a lead where you kind of know what they're doing because then that means Jalen Ramsey gets involved more and he's going to make some electric plays because he's one of the best corners in the league.
Yeah, Commanders are weird because they're definitely worse than they were before the trades, obviously, but
Yeah,
they still have really a lot of offensive talent. They don't have a great offensive line, but they can still put points up, it seems like.
they can move the ball. It's like just scoring touchdowns always is hard for them, but at least they could Sam Howell just throws it all over the lot. He's gonna
Like
throw into you. He's gonna throw into his own teammates.
if this was in Miami, I would say this is like 40-24. Like points on
Yeah,
both sides, but the Dolphins pulling away with it. I was skeptical before, thinking it was going to be bad weather. I'm assuming. I don't know. I'm assuming it's going to be bad weather if it's, not great in
it
Philly and
it's showing
Pittsburgh and all that.
rain. It's showing rain, like a light rain, but it's showing rain.
And even without that, I'd have been a little bit skeptical of Tua. Uh, but yeah, I mean, they should win this game. I mean, I don't think it's upset alert, but I wouldn't be terribly, terribly shocked if, the Commanders pulled it out, right?
Yeah,
But at the same time, yeah, no, Dolphins should win this game. But we alluded to the Buccaneers earlier and their matchup with the Panthers. They're at home. They're favored by 5.5. They should blow this game out. But hey, Frank Reich got fired. Keenan, I'd forgotten Frank Reich got fired midseason last year too, like around this time. So he is the first coach to ever get fired midseason back-to-back years.
that's
First coach to
crazy.
get he's the first coach to get fired back-to-back years period, but in season, yeah, that's definitely historical.
I don't know if I don't know if the Panthers are the first team to ever fire coaches in back-to-back years mid-season. I don't know that stat, but they fired Matt Rule back last year
It's true.
mid-season.
That's
So
true. They very well might be too. Very well might
they
be.
might be the first team to ever fire a coach back-to-back mid-season.
That's a joke of
That's
an
tough.
organization. That is a joke of an
That's
organization.
tough. To
Um,
think where they were in 2015 with Ron Rivera and Cam Newton when they went 15-1, made the Super Bowl, and then to think where they were Luke Kuechly on that defense with other pieces to now they have Bryce Young, who I can't even really hate on because he hasn't had any opportunity. Like he's been put in a
Not at
losing
all.
situation. You can't really hate. You can't anyone who's really oh my god, they must be killing themselves at night because they didn't get CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud would not be this there. He might be a little
No.
better because he's a little bigger and can is a little more elusive inside the pocket. But he wouldn't be this. Like he
He'd be able to elevate this team a little more, you would think, right?
yeah, he
Given
might
what
be
we've seen.
he might
But he
be you
wouldn't
might see flashes.
he wouldn't be in a playoff hunt right now, probably. It's fair
No,
to say, right?
this team's not good
Uh,
enough for that. This team's not good.
Look, I think this Buccaneers team again is slightly better than the record. Only slightly. I feel like they should have maybe 2 more wins. Okay. Uh the Panthers, like we said, they just fired Frank Reich. Usually you get a bounce back performance after that happens if you fire a coach in season. Um So I do think the Buccaneers are going to win, but I do think it'll be a closer game. I'm going to say 25-22 Bucks.
Huh. Very close to me. I have it 25 to 20 bucks for all the same reasons you do. Um, Frank Reich is still there. It's just 25 to 12, but you might see a couple new trick plays. Bryce Young might feel a little bit more comfortable. The team might get a spark defensively, but overall, Tampa's just a better team. And this is a must-win. Like, you can't lose
Yeah,
this
they got to
game
win
for
this
them.
game.
You can't lose.
Maybe I should go pick up Miles Sanders in all my leagues again and see how he does.
Maybe Chuba Hubbard, honestly.
Yeah,
But
that too.
Never
That
know.
too. Skip that. We did the Niners Eagles already. Browns at Rams. Rams are favored by 3.5. Rams found their way back to the playoff picture and are even more so back in it if they win this game. The Browns, and I hope this is true. Like, I hope this happens. I pray that it happens. They could be starting former Ravens legend, former New York Jets legend. Who else did he play for? There's one more team in there. He's an actual Ravens legend, but hey, won a few games for the Jets. There's got to be one more team. You can look that up.
I want to say the. I don't know why I want to say the Browns. Like, I want to say he was a Brown at some point.
I think he might have been, but we're getting.
No, he was a Bronco he was a Bronco. That's right. He was a 1-year Bronco.
Former Ravens legend, former Broncos legend, former Jets legend, Super Bowl winning quarterback, the legend formerly known as Joe Flacco, might be starting this game. I'm hoping he will.
Can't name many better playoff runs than his 11 touchdown to no pick playoff run.
Yeah, exactly. He lit it the fuck up, to say the least.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was last season where he had that comeback win over the Browns with 2 minutes when they were down 13.
Because he had done more than Zach Wilson had in multiple weeks. I remember people were saying that. So,
and he did it in a 2-minute span. I hope that happens. Yeah, I mean, you've heard me talk about time and time again. I love the chaos that ensues this time of year. Nothing would be more chaotic than Joe Flacco and what's basically a must-win game. I mean, they got a playoff spot right now, but I mean, look, say this about the Browns. I remember I saw something on ESPN before the year that said they were a top 10 team, and I was like, yeah, they got all kinds of talent, but like, what business do they have being put in the top 10 ahead of teams who have maybe done some things in this league, or at least made the playoffs, right? And which the Browns have made the playoffs in recent years, but they were coming off some down years, whatever. But I mean, now, you literally do not know week to week who's playing quarterback, and they're still not only competitive in these games, but in some cases winning these games. Mm-hmm. If DTR doesn't get knocked out of last week's game, maybe they win last week against the Broncos as well. I hope we get Flacco. Let me reiterate again, not only for my wallet's case, but just for the chaos. That would be amazing to see Flacco in a late season game in a possible must-win scenario for them and a definite must-win scenario for the Rams. That would be entertaining football. Granted, it's going on at the same time as Niners Eagles, but all that to say, I'm going with the Rams. Hard to say what the defense will be. I think Myles Garrett is playing. There was a chance he wouldn't play, but I think he is playing. You've heard me say the Browns defense doesn't travel well. The Rams, they're kind of the same. You don't really know if their offense is going to put up 16 points. You don't know if they're going to put up 33 points. So I'll go right in the middle. It seems like all my fucking games are falling in this 24 to 27 zone.
That's this time of the year, though.
I guess so.
That's what this time of the year is.
We'll give them 26, and we'll give Flacco's Browns 16 points. 26-16 Rams.
Okay, so here's the thing. If you could convince me 100% that Joe Flacco was starting, I would pick the Browns. I don't know. I have a feeling.
You said that?
I'm saying that now. I don't know.
With Flacco?
Is he starting officially?
It's rumored he is. I don't know. It's either him or PJ Walker.
See, I'm going Rams 23-21. If I'm not changing it, but that's gonna be it. But I'm
if
saying
Flacco
right
plays, you're picking.
If Flacco plays, I would pick Flacco and the Browns. I don't know. I feel like I really could be electric. I don't know. I just have this feeling.
Vincent Flacco. You can't get much more.
Man, I don't know. I hope he starts, but I'm going Rams 23-21.
I'll tell you this. Adam Schefter one day ago, with Browns quarterback Dorian Thompson Robinson now in concussion protocol, Joe Flacco has been taking snaps as Cleveland's QB1 in practice and could start versus the Rams on Sunday.
I don't trust him. I'm not
Amari
going to trust.
Cooper said when Flacco Amari Cooper said when Flacco drops back, it's poetry in motion.
I'm telling you, he's
Hey,
the best thrower of the football on the roster.
2 hours ago, Joe Flacco is likely starting versus the Rams.
Yep.
Kevin
Okay.
Stefanski hasn't announced it yet. Let's hear it.
Yep. 24-21 Cleveland. Yep. Change it on the spot. Yep.
If
Okay.
Flacco comes out of retirement and just lights up
24-21
in LA.
Cleveland. You heard it here.
Hey.
I'm convinced.
I root for chaos. There'd be nothing more chaotic than that.
Oh man,
Setting the
I
Rams
love
back
it.
a game too. Speaking of teams who need a win, who found themselves back in the playoff hunt when we didn't expect it, Chiefs going to the Packers in the game that substituted, not even substituted, but just outright was
Ranked
picked
over.
over the Niners and Eagles for
Ranked
the
over
Sunday
the
night
NFC
game.
Championship game.
Crazy
last
to
year.
me.
I
just
would
wanna
rather
say
see
this.
Denver and Houston in that slot.
Honestly, I mean, yeah, honestly though, this should be a good game. Chiefs.
It
Chiefs
should be
Packers
bad,
a good
but I
game.
would rather see. I mean, but Denver, Houston, I get why you don't put pre-season. But
Yeah.
now to this week, you would prefer it. But San Francisco, Philly, that's one of the most idiotic scheduling I've seen all season.
Before we
Well,
get to that, since we're on the topic of scheduling, I saw earlier, and you probably saw this too, they flexed out what was going to be a primetime Patriots-Chiefs game. It was going to be a Monday night game. They flexed it out. I forget who. It doesn't matter. Put someone else at Monday night. Put that Chiefs-Patriots game at 1 p.m. on a Sunday, and they picked their 3 Saturday night games for that week. So it was probably the week of Christmas, the week before, somewhere around that range, right? What pissed me off about that, Keenan, was for week 16 or 17 or something like that. I haven't seen a single game flexed. And usually by the time we get to this part of the season, we've seen 3 or 4 games flexed at Sunday night. And we've had some terrible Sunday and Monday night games. And maybe I did know this. Maybe it just skipped my mind, but I didn't realize you could flex a Monday night game. It would have to be, 3-4 weeks in advance like this one is. So I'm like, we've had these terrible Monday night games. I mean, shit.
What game was last week? Oh,
Vikings,
maybe
Bears.
Vikings, Bears. What game
That
happened
was
at
awful.
425?
What was it for? Oh, what? Eagles, Bills? Yeah,
Eagles,
come on.
Bills. That would have been
Come
pretty
on.
cool to watch on Monday Night Football.
And the
Sunday
night game, at least that game we were expecting to be more entertaining. That game was
Yeah,
honestly
that
kinda ugly.
I'm fine. Chargers, Ravens. Those are two very. Those
You're okay
Chargers
with it.
are a very talented team that has upside. The Ravens are a very good team. You're fine with that.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah. And I sort of feel this way, but except we knew going into the season that Niners Eagles not only was a rematch of the NFC Championship game, that wasn't, but we knew before the season that could have been the rematch again this year in the NFC Championship game.
If the Niners
and
were
definitely still
playing,
holds true.
if the Niners were playing, say the Vikings, then I get why you maybe have Chiefs Packers. That's fine. But the Niners are playing the Eagles. It's not the news. So yeah, but anyways, what's the line on this Packers Chiefs game? Is it 6?
6.
That's what I thought.
It was at 1.6.5. Now it's 6. I think this is going to be a good game. I mean, Jordan Love has been coming along. This Packers offense has been coming along. Mahomes and the Chiefs. I almost said Mahomes. Mahomes and the Chiefs.
I was gonna say I thought you said Mojito. Mojito and the Chiefs.
Patrick Mojito. Look, they got holes. The Chiefs got holes. I would not be shocked at all if the Packers won this game. Just for the hell of it, and because I think I'm ahead of you in the standings, I'm going to pick the Packers. We'll say 30-27, even though that has not been the case in any of the primetime games, especially Chiefs games, actually. Let me lower that score. Let me go keep it 3 points, but we're going to go under, and the under is 40. What are we going to go? That'd mean like the Chiefs got to get like 17. We'll say 23-19 to keep it consistent. Pack, even though that favors the Chiefs. Honestly, you'd favor the Packers in a shootout more than a defensive game, but we'll go with it.
I've actually got the Chiefs 30-20. I think they figured out a little something last week. Not that it's going to be. I don't think like a blowout. I think it's pretty close first half. Second half, they pull away a little bit. Jordan Love maybe not connects on some couple drives. Mahomes does. Could be a bigger Kelsey game. You could see.
Very well could be. And
Yeah,
that's
just because it's prime time, it's in Lambeau. I don't think you might see T Swift on screen, so we know how he plays when Swift's in the building. So
isn't she on tour? Because they like fucking
oh
mention that
yeah,
every
she is
week.
on tour. Never mind. That's probably why he's been so bad lately. So all right, go on.
Yeah, I don't feel good about my pick, especially the score I gave it at. Probably should have picked my original score, but I'm going with the trends. Yeah, I'm still just upset that we did not get Niners Eagles on Sunday Night Football. I'm still upset. We haven't even talked about it, but Bears Vikings, like that was such a joke of a game. That was such an ugly game that it might have ended the Dobbs era, unfortunately. They said they're going to look into the quarterback position. I still think Dobbs will end up back with it, I
I
would
do
think.
too. I
Granted, we
hope
didn't get to
so.
see much of the other dude. It was Jason something. It was something with a J, right?
I
Jeremy,
don't know,
Jason,
but yeah,
John.
I hope they do.
Um,
I hope they
and they're
keep
getting
it
Justin
up.
Jefferson back. So I mean, there's going to be something there.
Yeah, give him one game with Justin Jefferson. Like, give him one game with Justin Jefferson can make probably mid-tier quarterbacks look top tier. like, give him one. I'm not top tier, obviously, but you know what I mean. Justin
I
Jefferson
mean,
can elevate you as a QB. Give him one game.
if you want to allow me to complain, you
Yeah, go
said
for it.
you said how Sirianni, you thought it was a terrible call for him to call his last time out when it was about 20 seconds left after that
Absolutely,
Jalen Hurts draw, which I understand. I mean, I
absolutely.
thought
And
it
then I thought it
was
was terrible for Sean McDermott to call a timeout too. But go on.
sure, sure. I didn't think it was like the worst coaching decisions I'd ever seen. But then the next night, the Vikings score, right? They score with
Yep.
Dobbs. Then they get the ball back. I forget if they forced the fumble the second time or if they punted. I think they forced the fumble the
I
second
think they
time,
forced a fumble.
right? Because they get the ball in Bears territory, like
Yeah.
right in between where it'd be field goal and punting range. And what? They run three straight run plays, don't even get themselves in a field goal range, don't even give themselves a situation where they have to put Fields in a position to score a touchdown at
Yeah.
that. Uh, they keep it at one, they punt the ball, and what happens? Fields goes down and gets him a field goal. And again, one of the ugliest games of the year, and a year that
I
featured
understand.
terrible games.
I understand that Dobbs was obviously turning the ball over, but again, I'm rolling like it's not like you have McCaffrey in the backfield to where you're like, oh yeah, like we're gonna run the ball, like we can run whenever we want. Like if the Lions even ran three straight plays, even though they have Jared Goff, you're like, their identity is running the ball. I get it. Let him get him on the move, rolling out. Like don't have him just as a drop back guy. Like maybe run it on first down, but then second down instead of running the ball, maybe try to get him something short. T.J. Hawkinson can play football well. Almost said basketball can play football well. Just let him do that.
Well, man, in that case, at least like if you're trying to run out the clock, fine. But at least like you don't want to put the ball in the air, but at least get a creative run play to where you're not just running into the back of your line and then saying, "Sure, you're like Fields, we're going to give you more than enough time," because I think it was over a minute left for him to
Hmm.
score. And it would be one thing if it was a 4 point game, but if it's a 1 point game, all you're asking is for him to get you in field goal range, which Fields isn't the greatest quarterback, but he can scramble. And he actually, funny enough, ended up beating him with his arm because they're playing his own defense. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'd say worst
They just
enough
made
he
it
could
too
have ran for
easy.
25 yards and then literally now it's one completion away. I mean, they already got
Sure,
down and they won, but like
sure.
it's all they needed.
I was upset with how easy they made it for Fields, but
Yeah, and that
I
could have been
think
their season.
I think that's one of the games that put me over the top though in our head to head. So
It was.
eh, we'll see how this progresses, but yeah, we're close in our games for sure. We got one more. This would have been a great game. Could have flexed this one out honestly, but hey, I mean we had Burrow a couple weeks ago, but it's the Bengals at the Jaguars. Jaguars are favored by I think that's 8.5. Yes, 8.5. Jags should have no problem winning this game. We will say 30-17 Jaguars.
I actually have this game a little closer. I have it 27-20 Jags. I don't think that they're going to really struggle. I don't know. There's something in me that just feels like they're not going to show up to put like a team away. don't know, something about it that just
Never
makes me
know.
feel. Jamar Chase might make a couple like, oh my, I mean, he made a couple last week just off the bobbles where he's like, okay, great concentration. Like Jamar might just make a couple plays where you're like, oh, he's too special. But I don't think they're ever in jeopardy of losing the game. Just maybe a little closer. But
Keenan, I'll
that's
say
so.
this since we have finished up.
Yep.
We have finished up with our picks.
Yep.
Um, excuse me. Hold on. All right. So we're gonna talk in season tournament next week.
Yep.
And we've each said how we're pleasantly surprised by this tournament. Uh, but hey, I do like picking nits in certain things. I
Of
do,
course.
I love the NBA. Like, how can we make the NBA better?
Mm-hmm.
I think I mentioned this one other time before. I don't know if it was off air, or if it was just me, talking to you, or if I mentioned it on air. But hey, let's come up with a better name than NBA in season tournament.
Yep.
The gear that just says NBA in season tournament looks ridiculous. These
Yep.
courts are shitty. I've mentioned that. Whatever with the courts.
The courts I'm getting over. Like I only like it because of the sense it's an in-season tournament game. Like you just turn it on,
Sure.
you're like, oh, this seems like it's actually important because of the court. But in like actual like aesthetically, it looks terrible. They all like 90%
Especially
of them
like
look
the
terrible.
blood red courts and shit like that. Like
Yeah,
there's some that are
the
okay.
OKC blue courts are like it's too much.
It's obnoxious.
It's just so much blue.
My thing is, it didn't seem like many teams. Like I said to you, I think last week I was like, hey, I think I was right about like the standings, like with how it works. I think it's 2 teams per group,
Mhm.
and I've heard commentators or people in the media describe it as that, but I've also seen people describe it how you described it, how it's like only one team from like each conference, I guess, that would make it out, or I don't really know how it works. But that's the thing. I've seen confusion all around between the media, between teams. We've seen teams not know about the point differential thing. So there genuinely seems like many teams across the league don't actually know what's going on with the in-season tournament. Um,
Yeah.
so I would like them to tweak it next year a little bit, whether it's the divisions or maybe finding out a different variation other than point differential. Funny enough, point differential is very much an AAU style of differentiating teams who are tied. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you could very
Yeah.
well call this the NBA AAU tournament. I cannot wait. I mean, it's going to be next weekend. Actually, a week from tonight, we're
Mm-hmm.
getting the semifinals. I'm not sure what the Thursday night football game is, but that will be going at the same exact time, so that should be interesting. Um, I mean, look, we're gonna get mini postseason games in December, which is cool. My only worry, and I mentioned this to you last week, Keenan,
Oh,
is
Kyle, nothing you need to worry about. It's Patriots Steelers
oh,
in
that's right, it
Pittsburgh.
is, it is,
Nothing you need to worry about.
it
Just keep
is.
tabs when you want to, but season
We will
tournament will rank
miss,
over there.
we'll have whoever's playing that night. It'll probably be high scoring, and we'll miss out on a 9-6 football game or a 12-6 football game, maybe a 5-2 game if we're lucky. Uh,
If a
so
team won 4-2, it's like 2 safeties to 1. It'd be the greatest thing in the world. Or like
it's my dream game right there.
that is a dream game. Or maybe like a 6-8, where you get like 2 touchdowns, but one of them returns like the 2-point conversion to get the 2 points, and then they win like that. That'd be like
You
a
ready? You ready
legendary
for
game.
this? You ready for this nerd stat right here that I just have off the top of
Yeah,
my
I
head,
love nerds.
just because I've seen it
I
recently.
love nerd stats.
Because like I wanted to compare earlier in the year. I'm like, all right, this Dolphins offense could be all time great. I'm like, let me look at the greatest show on turf because people always talk about that, right? And they certainly had some
Mhm.
blowouts, but they won, and I'm pretty sure it was them. I want to say it was them. They beat the Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game to go to the Super Bowl. Score was 9-6. Last team you'd expect for
I
that, but
did
that
not
is
know.
that vaunted Buccaneers defense. But yeah, 9-6 they won to advance.
I did not know that.
So yeah, those are my gripes. Not to jump back to the tournament, I would like to see them like give the actual tournament a name. I'd like to see more concrete rules, and like I've just seen so much confusion between NBA media, casual fans, true fans like us, and the league themselves, the players themselves. So I'm interested. What would you tweak when it comes to the in-season tournament? What would you add? Like
Um,
what would you
I
do
would
in your
make it
ideal situation?
so. I would actually do a couple things. One, it actually is. Now I'm looking at the bracket, so there's 4 teams on each side.
Uh huh.
So like I think like but I was you're right. There was so much confusion because like I couldn't definitively say like no, Kyle, you're wrong. There's only like, but like it's just weird. It's like okay, is how many teams? I would like it almost a little longer.
I was thinking
Like
the
the
same, maybe
play
like
like
6 teams. Or are you talking about
like 6 teams, but I
the
also
group
think like
play?
the group play just a little longer, just because like
Sure.
I think 4 games is tough. I think if because of it's an 82 game season. If it was a 66 game season, then I would think 4 games out of that because then you take it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I know the NFL's on Christmas now, which is taking some away from the NFL. I think if you had it's hard because you couldn't plan it that way, but you could kind of do it. I think if you had the championship game on Christmas, adding other games to it as well, that would kind of be really cool. I
Or at
mean, you
least
have to,
have the tournament weekend on Chris. Or
or
yeah,
like
it'd be
have,
hard to do that on Christmas every year. I get what you're saying
yeah,
though.
but like if you had the game on Christmas, like whenever it is you manage to have it so like that game is on Christmas that year, I think that would be really cool because like a championship game kind of on Christmas, it'd bring a little bit more back to the NBA. Not that people don't watch the NBA, but whenever the NFL does something, it's going to get a lot of viewers. And I haven't checked the numbers. This is just off a feel. I feel like the NBA viewers have gone down a little bit on Christmas Day because of the fact that the NFL is on Christmas Day. So whenever that's gonna your people like you and I mean not you and me, you and I will both watch both, but like people who like the NBA but really love the NFL will tend to watch the NFL rather than and keep up like on highlights with the NBA. That I could be
Yeah,
wrong,
I mean, I don't. The
but I
games
think
are
that'd be kind
so
of cool.
the games are so marquee for the NBA. I don't know if you're really losing that much. It's hard to
Yeah,
say. The
yeah,
NFL
that's
is going to
okay.
outrate anyone and everything just because it's such a
It's yeah,
generational league and it's all in
it's an
basic
NFL.
cable, which the NBA is too, of course. It's on ESPN, ABC, and TNT. But I mean, it wouldn't. They could put on that Bears Vikings game and it's going to outrate the NBA, right? Um,
Yeah,
the reason why though the NBA is on that specific weekend though, you're kind of getting out of you're right in between the bowl games. There's no big UFC event that weekend. The last UFC event in Vegas takes place the next weekend. So I'm
yep.
assuming there's no big boxing fights that weekend either. So you're out of the way of all those. So you're in this very specific spot that the NBA can kind of take over.
That's
So I
true.
don't think you'll ever see them move out of that weird December spot because it does seem quick. I mean, the season literally started what 6 weeks ago
Hmm.
at this point. So, I mean, we're right in the middle of it, and that's my worry. I mentioned it last week. It's just going to be this. Feels like there's going to be this drop off now from after Christmas to the All Star break, which is the lull anyway. But maybe, and who knows, maybe this is what Adam Silver's holding on to. Um, maybe the competitiveness will carry over from the tournament into that January and February stretch. I doubt it. I think the
Yeah.
season will pick back up after All Star break, like it always does. But I think we're going to see more load management and just less
Um,
incentive for the players to play, which is
which is
you mentioned
garbage to think that it's incentive. Like you have to be incentivized to play the sport that you're getting paid millions of dollars to do.
man,
Like
Ken,
that's just crazy to me. But that's me.
Ken, you said earlier like how old you felt complaining about the music. I feel so old whenever I have to like feel like I'm ripping into Adam Silver, but like he really is like I saw someone say the other day because they say like the commissioner in the NFL is supposed to protect the shield, and they said
Yep.
like Silver doesn't protect the logo. Like it sounded kind of corny, but it's true. Like he caters to the players so much, which is to some degree cool. But I mean, this is gonna sound real old man too, Keenan. But like even the coaches now, like after the pandemic, after the bubble, they allowed the coaches to wear like polos and shit there. So now the coaches don't have to wear suits. Like even that makes them look like a second rate league. Like the coaches are
It
now
feels
wearing stuff. You're
AAU.
yeah, it's what coaches wear in AAU or wear in high school. Even college coaches they got suits on, and I don't know. It just feels so. I don't want to say illegitimate, but it feels less important than 10 years ago when you're talking about like the Heat run and all that. I mean, we certainly look, the most prominent rivalry we have outside of Celtics Lakers, which is a generational rivalry, is probably Warriors Kings, and that was just birthed within the last year. Like, there's no
Warriors
rivalries,
Suns would be there too, just because of how. But
and even
even then
still,
they
that's
haven't
just
played in
birth.
the playoffs and thing. That's more so just like
Yeah,
Devin Booker and
they have no
Klay
real
Thompson
history.
don't like each other. Like if you're going rivalry, it really would have to be Steph and LeBron. Like
Yeah, and even
they'd have to be a
that,
player. It'd have to be a player one. But even
I'm
then, that doesn't feel.
if I'm talking strictly teams, I would think it's Warriors Kings right now because there seems to be legitimate bad blood. Seems to be good, great
You said
games when they
besides
play.
Celtics Sixers, right?
Yeah, so you could throw Celtics Sixers in there too. I said Celtics Lakers, but even
Celtics Lakers
Celtics Sixers, even though that's in Division Two, that's still kind of a generational one.
and
Um,
Bucks. I guess. I mean, the only Bucks could become something just because like they've seen them,
mhm.
or Miami a little bit just because you've seen like they've seen
Celtics
Miami 3 of the
Miami,
last 4 years.
you could throw
So like
Celtics Miami in there too, but even then, like that cooks up in the postseason. Like the regular season
yeah,
games, Jimmy might play, he might not. Jimmy sat out an in-season tournament game the other night. Like,
yeah.
I
I was to
just,
say
man, I just don't know.
Warriors Kings. It feels like it's something just they played in the regular season last or the postseason last year. Their regular season games are down to the wire. Harrison Barnes knows them. Obviously, Mike Brown was an assistant on the Warriors staff when they won a championship. So like each team knows
They
each
both
other
play
well.
fast. It's a
They
great
both play.
stylistic matchup.
It is. It really is. The other one, I was gonna say, Warriors Suns, and just because they don't like each other, but and then KD's there, but again, they haven't played meaningful games against each other, so it's hard.
Even that
And
seems more
then
friendly compared to
and
the
then
Warriors
like
Kings.
the other one, if you're thinking Warriors wise, would be Grizzlies, would be the other one. But even then, like it's tough
Fizzled
because
out.
like it's fizzled out. It could have been that was turning into that, but then it just kind of fizzled out. But the Warriors Kings is fun because you can tell there's a touch of disdain, but even though obviously Steph and De'Aaron Fox are friends, because obviously De'Aaron Fox signed with Steph. I don't know if you knew that or not, but
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
no.
I figured that. But like
Um,
they're just more of like a competitive, like we're better than you, no, you're better than us, and like the games feel like they meant something. Like when the
and
Kings beat
it's
the Warriors, it felt like it meant something a little bit.
only 2 hours apart.
Yeah,
They're only 2 hours away, something like that. So it's proximity, and it's just like they're fun games to watch. Before I get on Adam Silver, pause again. I want to say Malik Monk's had two of the best posters this year, and
hmm
he almost had the dunk of the year last night on Zubac. I don't know if you saw it, but
I
like
didn't.
I don't even know, he was like pinned against the backboard somehow. Like I don't even know how he like found his way up to the rim. It was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah,
But Adam Silver, he's just catered to the players so much. He killed the regular season. Uh, David Stern's rolling over in his grave probably with this in-season tournament, but he's definitely rolling over in his grave with how these players are treating the regular season. Uh, it's a shame that it's come to this. And I'll say this, at least Keenan, the story now is basketball. We're talking about the in-season tournament where it seems like the last 4 or 5 years, the main topic in basketball is player movement. When's this player getting traded? Who's he getting traded to? So it's refreshing to actually be talking hoops and like who's going to win. We're getting Suns Lakers in these quarterfinal games. Like we're getting good matchups. Celtics Pacers. Like
King
that's going to be a good game.
Kings Pelicans is gonna
Kings
be fun,
Pelicans. Like we got
and
good
then
matchups. Knicks Bucks
Bucks
too.
Knicks. Yep. And then like you could end up getting a Suns or Lakers versus the Kings or Pelicans, whatever match. That's cool. You get Anthony Davis playing against his old team. You get the battle for California. You obviously get Suns, like everything. Like not that you need the narrative behind it, but everything could just be fun there. And then obviously you either could get Knicks Celtics, get Bucks Celtics, or if the Pacers win, the Pacers, like, are they a playoff team? Like, are they like actually like a team that can compete? Nick Wright I was listening to his podcast today, and something he brought up that I thought was interesting was how are the coaches going to coach this? Like, are they going to like shorten the rotation like a playoff roster? Like
That
he was
is
bringing that up.
interesting.
Like he's interesting to think of
Very
like do you
interesting.
shorten the bench and go to like 7 or 8, or do you keep it at 10? Like kind of thing like that, and how do players react to that already? Because like maybe you're already showcasing a little bit of what your playoff mindset possibly could be, and maybe some of the players don't like that. Like, say he brought up like just for a kind of like example, what if like D'Angelo Russell's minutes got canceled or like cut rather, and like he doesn't like how that goes and be like, well, why am I getting cut now? Is this going to happen in the playoffs kind of thing? So
Hmm.
just like there's a lot of little in like things that could happen that's really interesting.
That's the most fascinating part of this tournament to me is exactly what you just laid out is, the strategies behind it. I think it'll impact the trade deadline for some of
Yep,
these teams. I really want to see the Warriors in this
I
situation. We
did
won't get to see
too.
that.
I wanted Warriors Lakers to get to the promised land. I think that would have been great, and Bucks Celtics to get there, just because I think that would have been great TV. I mean, all of this is going to be great. Don't get me wrong. Kings are just a fun team, but yeah,
and I want to see the T Wolves. Like I thought they would have made it through. Like you said, I almost feel like there should be more teams in this. It's good, it's many, and who knows? Maybe we'll get two more teams down the road. I do want to say last thing about Stern. If he was in the position to be the commissioner while this in-season tournament was going on, he would absolutely find a way to probably rig it to where it was Celtics Lakers at the end, whatever. So, and maybe that still will happen. I have a sneaky suspicion there will be some referee shenanigans, we could say. But
okay,
I'm interested, Keen. Like I said, this might impact the trade deadline.
yep,
What do you think? So, like, they're winning right now. The main incentive right now is 50 grand, I believe, or 500 grand
500.
for,
Yeah,
and everyone's saying, like, you got Lillard saying, like, oh, I want to win it for my bench guys. That doesn't seem sustainable to me. Like, it's got to be something more than a trophy and 500 grand per player, especially with how much these players are making. What would you like to see the incentive to be to win? Is it like a playoff spot, maybe, or maybe something to do with the draft, or what? Maybe more money? What do you think in your ideal world? What would be the prize for you?
I don't. Money always is cool just because people like money, and again, like as Lillard saying, like he's making 50 plus mil a year, but maybe Pat Connaughton, 500,000 for Pat Connaughton could change him, like that kind of thing. So like for them,
Connaughton's
that's
probably
cool.
making good money. He's a
Well, no,
rotation
Connaughton.
player.
That was the first person that came to my head. Like, yeah,
True,
Connaughton's
true.
probably making fine money, but 500,000 to Pat Connaughton is not the same as 500,000 to Dame. Like, they're in obviously different tax brackets. So 500,000 to them it would be cool. Or like the youngest on Antetokounmpo that's on like the Giannis. Like 500K to him would be pretty cool. But obviously for Giannis, that's that's 2 months of playing. Like okay, but to up it, I think that it would be cool to have either like some sort of playoff implication or like some sort of draft. Like it's hard for the draft because you wouldn't want like a team that won the finals to like have a lottery selection,
Hmm.
like an automatic lottery selection, because obviously you're trying to have it so the league is as balanced as possible.
Sure.
And it'd be hard to just like definitively say, hey, because you did this, you're guaranteed a playoff spot. But that would be something along those lines of like future winning aspects would probably be the best way to do it. I don't know exactly off the top of my head. I would want to sit down and think about it because it's not something you just want to throw out there. But you're right where money is probably not going to be the only motivation for some people because again, like Steph and LeBron were motivated because this is an in-season tournament, and obviously those are your pillars of the league. Now, if they're motivated, it's going to trickle down to the rest of them. But they're not going to be here forever. Say in 5 years, Luka's like, I don't really care about the money, or Jokic is like, whatever, it's money. I'm just going to go play basketball. And so if those two are like, not saying those because they're competitive players, but like say those two were like, I don't really care, then it might trickle down to being like, well, it's just some money. Like we'll be fine. And like I don't know if Bones Highland on a bench is gonna make you want to make your starter play heavy minutes, but I
Speaking
don't
of
know.
which, shocking we didn't really get the Nuggets. Granted, they didn't have Jamal Murray during the stretch, but
Yeah.
surprised they didn't make it as well. Um, no, I think you're right. I mean, it's tough, and like you said, they're all competitive anyway. So I do think that is enough to like get players up for it. Especially, it's going to be national TV games, and I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a big part of the reason why the NBA is the way it is because how toxic NBA Twitter is. So no one
Yeah.
wants to no one wants to have a James Harden like performance in these big games. Granted they're early season, but hey, we're gonna treat it like the playoffs. I can't wait to see what it looks like. I don't
Or
know. It's gonna
maybe
be
putting
different.
like an awards based on it. Like
Something.
if you made it longer, like than 4 games, like if you had it say like 8 or 10 games for the play in per se, like maybe 8, because then it's like 1/10, like 1/8, everyone about 1/9 of the season, 1/10 of the season. You could then put like a little award on it, and obviously like you get some benefits for the awards, like you can have some contractual award, like a little bit contractually too, so like money's involved, but you do get an award for it. So kind of like how it doesn't really matter now, but in 20 years from now, it's going to be like, oh, well, Steph Curry was the ever first Magic Johnson Western Conference final like player. Like to us, it's just like whatever because it's new. But like in 20 years, when people are talking about it, it's like, oh, well, this player has like 4 of these. I don't know. It could just matter to players later on about like,
Aaron Gordon has one. Aaron Gordon has a
yeah,
Magic Johnson award.
yeah, like just little legacy things. Like it could matter. Like obviously, Finals MVP has been sometimes he's blown a little bit too much out of proportion, in my personal opinion. I think it matters. Like your stars should get one, but I also think that sometimes it can be like
Well, I know
a
exactly what you're talking about. I think it matters. I think in the case of Steph, because I'm pretty sure that's what you're alluding to. I think that was just people, Steph
yeah,
haters, who really wanted to just
yeah,
nitpick, especially
yeah.
because that,
Like
especially
I
that
think it.
Iguodala one, Curry deserved it. You know what I mean?
Well, of course,
Just
like I
like
think it
Duncan probably
matters.
deserved that Tony Parker one.
Yeah, I think it completely matters, but like I think it more mattered that Kobe played well in the finals in '09. But say if Pau Gasol was like 30-10 and Kobe was 28-7-5, but they gave it to Pau, I don't think that hurts him. In my personal opinion, it doesn't hurt him
In
because it
that
did show
case,
that.
sure. But I mean, I will
Yeah,
say
but
that
like,
that following year, Powell, I think Powell probably had a little better stats than Kobe. It was
oh, he should
right
have. I
there.
mean, especially had a better game 7. Him and Ron Artest, which I think was Meta World Peace at the time, had better game 7s than Kobe. Kobe was not great in that game 7, but
No, he wasn't. Um,
But
yeah,
I'm just
no,
saying, like for him, just because he had 3 with Shaq, and obviously Shaq was Shaq. But like he clearly, like Kobe did his part, and like they don't win without Kobe. But
yeah.
Shaq was Shaq again,
I mean,
and
look,
then so like it mattered for him. But again, if he played very well, I know people would really hold it against him if like, oh, he didn't have any Finals MVPs. Was he really like the best player ever on his team? And like even if he wasn't Finals MVP on those Lakers teams, yeah, he was the best player on this team. And like obviously, if you watch the games, you saw especially that '09 Magic one. He was clearly that was to me that's his best finals, like his best run. Like obviously
yeah,
the Celtics one may be a little bit more of a legacy one just because you're beating the Celtics, but that '09 when they beat the Magic, that was the best Kobe like playoff ish run with him being by himself.
sure, yeah, definitely by himself for sure. Because yeah, he had
Yeah,
Finals MVP
he had
worthy
someone.
runs with
Yeah,
Shaq, but Shaq was just ridiculously off the charts. I don't,
yeah.
I don't want to, I don't want to say it should be minimized. I mean, this is a completely different topic altogether. I don't think it should be minimized, but I do think people definitely made it more toxic, especially when it came to Steph. People just really started using that in these dumbass player arguments. When he at least should have
Doesn't have
won.
any Finals
He
MVPs.
should have won that
He should have won
Iguodala
the Iggy
one,
one. He could
and
have.
you
He
can
could
make the
have argued
case
the second KD one.
exactly that one. It could have gone to either one of them, and Durant got it. And in that case, it's whatever. It's fucking Kevin Durant or Steph Curry. Like one of them's. It's
And
gonna be one of
also
those two,
that
and not
one,
Draymond or Clay. So
that one I felt was stupid just because like people were like because Steph was inefficient in Game 3, and I was like, well, they were up 2-0 in a series that they were clearly gonna win. So it was like, oh, KD had to save them in Game 3. Like that would have done so much for them. Like LeBron, after they lost Game 1, the series was over. Like you can't go for 51, have J.R. Smith not know the time and lose in overtime and come back from that. Like I'm
yeah, it
sorry,
was
like
over.
Game 1, they lost the series after Game 1, and that was fine because they already had lost the series pretty much before they came in. LeBron tried to give them hope, didn't happen. In that year, like obviously the year before when they had Kyrie, Kevin Love, then that Warriors team was just too good, but they were at least good enough. That was Jeff Green, Jr.
Good enough to win.
No, I was saying like that Kyrie and LeBron team was good enough to win a championship. They just weren't
Oh,
beating that
yeah, no, they
Warriors
weren't
team.
beating that team. Yeah, no.
That
Yeah,
that
you're right.
that team was just way too good. But
Um,
like that's a championship
so
caliber team. The LeBron against that Warriors team, their team wasn't. There wasn't even the same stratosphere.
back to the in season tournament though. Let's say it did give you an automatic playoff berth. I think that would be cool, but it would also be weird because like what if it's a team like we already have the play in games, right? Let's say it was a team that snuck in, or let's say the Pelicans. Let's say in this case the
Or the
Pelicans win it
Pacers, one of
all.
the two.
Sure, either one.
Yeah.
Let's say they sneak in, win it all, and then again, we'll keep it Pelicans. Let's say Zion gets injured because that's happened before. And they go on a skid
Yep.
and they are just like out of the playing position. They're the 12th seed, but they still get that
Yep.
automatic bid. That would suck. And we don't even know. Let's say that automatic
Yeah.
bid was like a 6 seed, not even a 7 or 8, right? They want to give you some incentive. So you're right in the middle there. So then you're getting like, who knows? Maybe you're getting Phoenix, maybe you're getting LA, maybe you're getting Denver. So that would be terrible. But that does seem like a logical thing though. Like
Yeah.
if you win, you get an automatic something. So I don't know if it's a playoff
I
spot,
would
but I
like an automatic play in. I mean, I would say if you had it to where it was like 8 games, as I was saying, and you had an automatic play in spot, like you were the automatic 8 seed because they have the play in, then I would be okay with it because 9 times, I mean, it sucked because it'd be a couple years that it might happen, but 9 times out of 10, if you won 8 games, like if you were the best in your group and you won that means you're probably 5-2 or 6-2, 5-3 at worst, and then that means that you have won 2 straight games. So you're already a playoff caliber team. So I would assume, in case something happened, you're a guaranteed 8 seed. But then again, for those teams, like say if the Lakers won it, they're probably like, we're already a playoff team. Like, what does it matter? Like, so like that's kind of like the up and down of it. Or like this year, if the Celtics won it, it's like,
it's
wow,
just
okay,
it's a
guys,
lot of
we made the playoffs. But then
it's too much variance between December and April to me. It's a lot of time.
yes.
Um, I mean, who knows? Maybe if you win the in season tournament, that gives you the right to add Joe Flacco to your team for the rest of the season. I don't know.
Or
Maybe
maybe
that's
Zach
it.
Wilson's family gets to attend all the games or something cool
Maybe
like that.
I like the Joe Flacco better.
The Joe
Add Joe Flacco
Flacco's.
to your NBA team, or add a legend from your past to your
You
NBA
mean Joe
team.
Flacco?
Flacco.
Joe
Uh,
Flacco.
Listen, this was the Warner Brothers podcast. We are 10 minutes before the Cowboys Seahawks game. Hopefully
Yep.
that's good. We got a decent slate of NBA games tonight. Full schedule tomorrow. Look, catch us on Live Take. We will be debating on there probably over the weekend. We'll cook something up, probably something NBA related. We've been doing
Yep.
some NFL debates. So again, catch us on Live Take. That's iOS only. Go get an iPad. Throw your Samsung, throw your Google out. If you don't want to get an iPad, go get yourself an iPhone, right? Follow
Yeah,
us on
of course.
TikTok. Follow us on
Yep.
Instagram. Follow us on YouTube. Keenan, great talking to you. I'll see you on Monday. We will be talking football then. Uh, we are on the cusp of some in-person Warner Brothers podcast episodes,
Absolutely.
so be on the lookout for that at the end of the month. You get our year-end music shows. That'll be
They'll
that'll be
be
a lot of fun.
together
I can't.
too.
Should be for sure. And
They should be
yeah,
together.
more NBA on the way. More NFL. We're in the middle of the stretch run for the NFL. My favorite time of year. In season tournament content coming next week as well. We're out of here.